Hey guys, this is Infinity No What Ifs. I hope you are doing well. Please support to subscribe this channel to watching new interesting stories and to get all videos in real time. Please subscribe. So in this video, we will see second part, what if Naruto was descended from and trained by Tobirama. Here is short summary. Uzumaki Naruto meets the Kyuubi at an early age. During one of the chases, he stumbles upon a house. What he finds in that house changes his life forever. Watch as he grows into his heritage and receives training from someone long past. But before we start, if you want more stuff like this, then be sure to subscribe and like this video. And if possible, share this video with your friends. Now let's start the story. Timeskip. 2.5 years later. A lone figure stood on top of the gates of Konoha. He was tall for his age, standing at a 5'2". He wore dark gray Anbu pants with orange stripes along the sides, taped with dark red bandages from the calf to the ankles. He had a burnt orange-colored mesh shirt under a dark gray shirt with 3/4 sleeves stopping just below the elbows. He wore a dark blue belt with 2 pouches on his back. On both his thighs were pouches for shuriken and senbon that were strapped over black bandages. Over the shirt he wore a navy blue sleeveless hooded jacket with the Uzumaki swirl on the back. The jacket contained pockets specially made to store scrolls and small containers for different things. He wore black gloves with metal plates on the back, where he sealed his katana and bow staff. On his feet he wore black shinobi sandals which were steel-toed. He was Naruto Uzumaki, and today was the day of his graduation exam. He reflected on all that happened during the past few years, his progress in skills, Enko's training, the academy, meeting Tobirama and training under him. Naruto had a small smile at the last thought. It had taken 3 weeks for him to go through and sort out the memories of his great-grandfather, after initially getting over the shock that Tobirama had transferred his memories to him. After spending 3 weeks assimilating the memories and experiences and another week training with his blood clone, he snuck out of the village and traveled the world for 2 years, under the guise of a bounty hunter known only as Arashi. He had conducted more than 300 bandit raids and had eventually been forced to fight missing nin from various villages, ranging from C rank to A rank, cashing in their bounty under his disguise. He knew he got lucky with the A rank ones, due to being underestimated for his height. What made him different from other bounty hunters was that whenever he cashed in a bounty, he would end up donating half of it to the orphanages in the various villages. When asked why, he would reply, "I was an orphan and had no one. I don't want other children to suffer like I did." He did not neglect his training either. Through his travels he would increase his sensory abilities, knowing from Tobirama's experience that he could sense across countries and could easily sense elemental affinities. He had even marked various places with his Hiraishin mark discreetly. He had even taken his training to new heights by using clones to take elemental manipulation beyond what was called mastery. He even ended up copying a lot of jutsu from his opponents with his method of copying jutsu, most of them being missing nin from Iwa, Kiri, Kumo and Suna. Thanks to his shadow clones and the use of durability and chakra storage seals, he had managed to create a spy network that was simple, yet inconspicuous. He now had disguised clones of himself in every corner of the elemental nations, gathering information and other valuables and sending them via Hiraishin to the base in Konoha. He had returned to Konoha under disguise 3 months ago with some news that troubled him. He relayed the information to Tobirama, who told him to report to Hiruzen as soon as possible. He had given him permission to reveal the existence of the Senju Grove and himself, figuring his skills would give him away with time. Revealing himself to the Hokage was an experience the aged leader would never forget. Flashback. Naruto, in the guise of Arashi, stood in front of the door to the Hokage's office. He had returned to Konoha a few minutes ago after hearing news which troubled him and would spell trouble for the village. "The Hokage will see you now," said the secretary. Nodding, Naruto raised his hand and knocked. He heard the voice of his Jiji say, "Enter." Taking a deep breath, he entered the office and saw Hiruzen stuck under piles of paperwork, looking tired and waiting for any form of distraction. "I wonder how long he will take to realize that the solution was with him all along," he thought with a sweat drop. "Maybe you could tell him the solution should things go south," Kurama suggested helpfully. Hiruzen looked up and saw the famous Arashi, the bounty hunter known as the Perfect storm. Due to never failing to turn in a bounty and having a habit of donating money to orphanages. Arashi-san, what can I do for you? Hokage-sama, I wish to speak to you in private. I've come across some troubling news and I wish to be completely honest with you. Hiruzen was taken aback. A bounty hunter wanting to help. Not uncommon but surprising all the same. Waving hand signs, he sealed the room and motioned the Anbu to leave. It is safe now, Arashi-san. Thank you Hokage-sama. I guess it's time I showed you who I really am. Who you really are. With that, Naruto removed his hood and mask, causing Hiruzen to widen his eyes with shock. And Naruto, you're Arashi. Is this some kind of prank? He nearly yelled. It is me, Gigi. I hope you have some sake with you. Because you're going to need it when I'm done with what I have to tell you. With that, Naruto told him how he had stumbled into the Senju Grove and met the essence of Tobirama Senju, how he had trained under him while pretending to be an idiot outside, the latter of which Sarutobi knew why, how 2 years ago he had gone out as a bounty hunter to gain experience as instructed by Tobirama and how he had conducted bandit raids. Some details he had not told the aged Hokage. However, Hiruzen knew better. So let me get this straight. You met Tobirama sensei, or rather, his chakra essence in the Senju Grove. He got a nod. Trained under him for 4 years, another nod, and under his instruction went out to gather intelligence and experience while leaving a clone to fool others. Another nod. Hiruzen stared at his surrogate grandson for a while. He then took out a bottle of sake and drank the entire thing in one gulp. Tell me why I shouldn't place you in prison for not letting me know about this. Sensei told me not to tell anyone when I first asked. Said about ninja keeping secrets. Only because I have some urgent news is why Tobirama sensei told me to tell you or else you would be suspicious. And pray, tell, what is this news? A new village has come up in Rice Country, called Otogakure Hidden Sound Village. It turns out Orochimaru is the leader of the village. Sarutobi placed his elbows on the table, his fingers steepled. Is that so? It gets worse, Hokage-sama, Naruto said, making Hiruzen alert. Naruto never addressed him as Hokage-sama unless the situation was serious. I managed to get a clone to infiltrate the village after much difficulty. I was at the lower end of the totem pole in the shinobi force, but some of the jonin there cannot hold their liquor to save their lives. I managed to learn that they plan to invade Konoha during the next Chunin exams. Naruto stopped there to let the information sink in. Sink in it did. The aged Hokage's mind was running a mile a minute. Arrangements have to be made. A full council meeting to plan a counterstrike, provisions for civilians and to find out where the hell Jiraiya is. He's supposed to be my spy master. Why didn't he know this? Don't worry about Jiraiya, Gigi. Naruto laughed. He's busy perving on the women in the hot springs in Kuni. I managed to slip the information to him before hightailing it out of there to warn you about it. I see. Thank you Naruto-kun. But what will you do now? I'll return to the academy of course. I just have to hold back till the Chunin exams. No one but the two of us needs to know what happened here as of now. Oh, and by the way, I have a summoning contract. Hiruzen's eyebrows were raised. Which one? Naruto cut his thumb with a kunai, spread the blood on his palm and made the hand signs boar dog bird monkey ram. Then he slammed his hand onto the ground and said, Kuchio's no jutsu. A puff of smoke later revealed a black panther that was 6 foot tall. It had green eyes that shone with intelligence and was battle-hardened. The panther itself was humanoid but currently sat on its hunches. It looked to Naruto. Hello, Naruto. Why have you summoned me? It seems we don't have any enemies around. It spoke in a deep rumbling tone. Hello Bajira-sama, I summoned you here to introduce you to the Hokage. This is Hiruzen Sarutobi, Sandaime Hokage of Konohagakure no Sato. Naruto said, gesturing to the Hokage. Bajira turned to the Hokage and nodded. It's an honor to meet the holder of the monkey contract. Do give Enma-sama my regards. He's a powerful warrior and a worthy opponent. Hiruzen looked at the panther and nodded. It's an honor to meet you as well Bajira-sama. I hope we can meet again and we look forward to working with you. He said with a smile. I'm curious. How did you get the contract? I was near the land of woods when I saw a panther that was caught in a trap. I gently freed her and healed and gave her food. Then all these panthers surrounded me and I had to fight them off. Bajira-sama appeared immediately to stop me from killing them. Turns out the whole thing was a test and they deemed me worthy of the contract. Naruto claims you were among the only ones who cared for him when younger. For that, you have my gratitude. I shall take your leave now. And Naruto, Majila wants to meet you soon. Bajira said, chuckling at Naruto's paling face and disappearing in a puff of smoke. Who's Majila? My familiar. She gets pissed if I don't summon her at least once a month. I didn't summon her last month. I'm so done, he said in a panic. It can't be that bad. She may be small and cuddly, but she can be really nasty when pissed. The aged leader laughed. Very well then, if that is all. He released the seals and Naruto bowed and turned to leave. As he opened the door, he stopped and turned around with a smirk. You know, Gigi, if you have so much trouble with paperwork, why don't you use shadow clones to reduce the burden? Hiruzen had a look of shock, then realization. He didn't notice Naruto leaving as he banged his head on the table muttering, "Stupid, stupid, stupid." Flashback end. He mentally sighed in relief at that thought. His information along with his solution to paperwork was what saved him from being thrown in prison for running out of the village, even if it was for good intentions. He had left immediately after and returned a month later, concluding his training in the outside world. He had assimilated the memories of his blood clone once he was back for good. They had an all-out spar once he had finished arranging the memories, and Tobirama was impressed and satisfied with what he saw. In regards to skills like taijutsu, kenjutsu, shurikenjutsu and fuinjutsu, Naruto was a natural. He had finally mastered his elemental fist, along with being able to incorporate chakra into his strikes. His kenjutsu was sharp and Naruto could easily mix up between different styles. He had even mastered bojutsu and had even become proficient with other weapons. All in all, Tobirama could confidently say that Naruto was at least mid to high Jonin level, his current 12-year-old form the only limiting factor. Naruto was currently at the 15th level of the resistance seal. Naruto had tried out the taijutsu simulation his father left for him on returning. Needless to say, he was excited as hell when he fought the first level. And he was more than surprised at how difficult it became with each level. He may have reached a level in his resuscitance seals that actually permits him to try all 10 levels, but the 5th level's victory came at the cost of some very impressive bruises. It taught Naruto that his taijutsu, while very good, seeing that he managed to fight off B-ranked missing nin, was not good enough. He increased the resistance on his body, believing if he was faster, he would be better. He had tried the 6th level after a week and was pleased to see that the number of bruises he got were significantly less, a sign of improvement. He was most impressed with how Naruto managed to improve his shadow clone jutsu. Naruto had made modifications to the technique such that they were linked together by mind. They had discussed various theories on chakra with each other. During his research, Naruto believed that the creation of sub-elements need not necessarily be part of a bloodline, arguing that the bloodline was basically the ability to naturally mix elemental chakra within the body, something Tobirama vehemently disagreed with. Apart from his wood manipulation, he had tried to combine his wind and water nature, reaching the beginnings of using the ice style. He was far from getting it battle ready, but when he had demonstrated it, Tobirama had allowed himself a bit of emotion by staring at his great-grandson with a gobsmacked expression. Even Hiruzen almost had a heart attack when he showed him. Flashback. How? Hiruzen asked, to which Naruto bashfully scratched the back of his head. Naruto had demonstrated the beginnings of ice style by trying to collect molecules of water from the air and freezing them. He had succeeded and had shown Tobirama, and now he showed Hiruzen, both elder shinobi shocked at his advancement. It's really just phases of matter. Once you understand that, the trick just becomes molding the chakra. Naruto said. The aged Hokage nodded dumbly. He himself had been trying to produce sub-elements, peeking at his stopgap technique of producing earth and fire jutsu in combination. It seemed that Naruto had perfected that method and had surpassed it to the point he could make a sub-element. I believe the Kekkei Genkei is the ability to innately mix elemental chakra in your tenketsu. Just think, Gigi, if this works, people don't need to steal or breed bloodlines. This boy is single-handedly changing ninjutsu and advancing it slowly. It's like watching a little blonde version of Tobirama sensei. He truly is the most unpredictable ninja, Hiruzen thought with a smile. Flashback end. A side project during the training insisted on teaching the boy how a shinobi should act, on and off mission time. Analytical skills were tampered when emotion overruled judgment. While on the mission, emotion just did not belong. Something even Kurama had stressed on. In Nadime's time, even genin were penalized for allowing emotion to jeopardize the mission. Emotion was only allowed in off-mission times. Nadime always preached about the balance between light and dark or yin and yang. He had two examples in the past that he constantly explained to Naruto. Hiruzen Sarutobi was the light. He could handle somewhat fine in the dark, but not as much as Tobirama preferred. Danzo Shimura was the complete opposite, 100% comfortable in being the dark and not at all used to being in the light. Tobirama had chosen Hiruzen as the Sandaime Hokage for precisely this reason. Naruto came to learn a lot about Tobirama's strongest students in the past and how they acted in general. Lastly, but no less important, Tobirama had focused on trust. A shinobi must learn the consequences of whom he trusted. In a mission, even allies could turn against you. Nadime did not tell Naruto to not trust anyone, focusing instead on tutoring him into playing caution when meeting someone you do not know 100%. Enemies often used trust as a weapon to get close and perform the killing blow. He knew his history now, thanks to talking to a living embodiment of the Clan Wars era and even the First Great Ninja War. He had finally completed 2 Fuinjutsu projects that he was working on for the last 4 years. The first one was what he called the pad. He had created a seal that could connect any scroll that had the communication seals he had created. The one thing that Tobirama helped him with was point out the flaws, like the blatant lack of security in the first draft. Anyone could open a scroll and write into it, including an enemy. Which was why Naruto designed a basic, but clever security system. Tobirama had helped him in integrating that system into his seal array without disturbing the space-time seals on the scrolls. The scroll would have a chakra lock. It wouldn't open, as in the communication seals would not activate until the person the scroll belongs to puts in their chakra. If there was even the slightest irregularity in the chakra, the seals would deactivate completely and a security password would have to be written on the scroll to activate them again. 2 other flaws Tobirama had pointed out was that the recipient wouldn't know who the message was coming from, and introducing oneself every time you write was annoying. The other flaw was that it was a paper scroll and as such, it needed a flat surface to write. Over the next few weeks Naruto managed to add the identity matrix to the array, and he managed to replace the scroll with something better. The pad, at first appearance was a cylindrical, metallic black stick about 3/4 the length of his forearm. There was another small cylindrical stick that was parallelly attached to its side that when pulled, paper was stretched out like a napkin dispenser that hardened upon straightening. He could easily write on it with anything and whatever was written, it would be transmitted to the receiver in real time. His other project was a multi-purpose bracelet. He had wanted to track his progress in training and his interest in genjutsu had led him back to the Senju library, where he had found 2 books, Healer and Fighter, A Combat Medic's Journey by his aunt Tsunade and Forest for the Trees, Illusions and You, by his great-grandmother Taka Senju. These included the types of jutsu Naruto had needed and additional exercises and ideas to improve chakra control. Thanks to the books, his memory of the Uzumaki Fuinjutsu volumes his mother left him, and the new books on sealing in the Senju library and his shadow clones he managed to create a device that consisted of beads, black with orange symbols. Nothing really stood out among them but that was only a trick. Naruto would pulse his chakra into the first bead and feel the chakra feedback. It would light up for 1 minute before the invasion of chakra stopped. The second bead had a screen of information that only he could see, which included his height, weight, blood type, chakra characteristics and other information provided by the most basic diagnostic jutsu. The third bead was a modified tracking seal, which would tell Naruto how far and how fast he ran. The diagnostic bead would keep track of his vitals and oxygen levels. There were 9 beads in total. One was a projection barrier he could erect at any moment, another a compressed storage seal, and another was a Senbon launcher. Not all beads were marked, but Naruto was happy he got it to work. Hiruzen and Tobirama had been proud of him, the former being speechless when he first demonstrated his projects to them. He begged his Gigi to keep the fact that he made it a secret until the Chunin exams so as not to draw any attention to him, to which he reluctantly agreed. His outside training had gone well, as he observed after assimilating the memories from the blood clone. He had improved in his spars with Anko, which led to her actually starting to train to keep ahead of him. He had spent time with Hinata training after academy. Once a week was spent just being in each other's company. Afternoons would be spent studying chakra theory or being with the Hokage, sometimes helping him with his paperwork. Naruto would spend time asking about the previous Hokages, as well as the Sannin and his parents. They would often play shogi as well, where they were both even now in terms of wins and losses. As he stood upon the gates reminiscing, a sudden noise caught his attention. He smirked. That's right, all the alarms would be sounding now, waking them up from their precious sleep. It was his final prank before he became a ninja. All the civilian council members had been pranked by him. He had set off a timed release stink bomb in each of the houses, courtesy of Fuinjutsu. He knew the blame would come onto him, but he had made sure nothing connected him to the crime. He also knew that the Anbu would be searching for him due to his prankster reputation. He had reduced the pranks, but he still would pull the occasional prank every now and then. Normally he would proudly take credit for some of his work, other times outright denying it, but since it was the important people this time, he made sure to have an alibi, which was the academy. He had specifically set them off just 5 minutes before the first bell rang, 10 minutes before which he was already in class usually. He easily sensed the jutsu shiki he had imprinted in the tree outside the academy and silently vanished without a trace. Appearing on the tree, he looked to see if the coast was clear. Once he confirmed that, he walked to the classroom. Hinata sat at the back of the classroom and looked around nervously. Naruto hadn't arrived yet and she also couldn't wait to see him. Ever since he told her about his status as a Jinchuriki, Hinata had requested him to help her train and become stronger. Naruto agreed, but warned her that his kind of training would be difficult. Hinata didn't care as long as she was able to gain strength to protect her friend. They had trained every day after school and on weekends. True to his word, Naruto's training was difficult and exhausting. During the first 4 months, Naruto was forced to carry Hinata home after their sessions due to her lack of energy after training. After all, she didn't have a walking chakra battery in her. Oi, I'm not a battery, damn it. What's with you, Kurama? Never mind, I'm going to sleep. Although it was a strenuous and long process, Naruto's training was paying off. Hinata was surprised that Naruto was able to polish and improve her Juken. They would spar at full force and he advised her never to hold back. If she did, she was indirectly hurting the one she sparred with, giving them the illusion they were stronger and therefore would be overconfident, leading to their deaths. She would lose because of her inability to land one blow on her friend while she was battered and bruised. She was thankful that Naruto knew a bit of medical ninjutsu as well, surprising as that was. Despite losing, Naruto would assure her that she was improving remarkably, proven when she was able to beat her sister, Hanabi, in recent spars, along with other branch members of the family, much to Hiyashi's approval. Naruto also trained her in ninjutsu, nature transformation and chakra control. They found out that her element was water and a weak secondary lightning affinity, and in the 2 years she had managed to complete 2 of the water manipulation exercises. He even taught her basic water jutsu from his arsenal, and had started to work on combining the water element with the Juken. He had even taught her tree walking and water walking. They had taken it to another level by fighting on a vertical surface and on top of the water. She had gotten proficient in both but was still not able to beat Naruto. They had trained her chakra reserves to a point where when Naruto finally taught her the Kage Bunshin, she could create one without falling to chakra exhaustion. However, Naruto made her swear never to use it unless necessary. Her friend was a capable teacher. He was knowledgeable, patient and encouraging. He taught her many things about the life of a ninja and the roles they play. He had even taught her some basic medical ninjutsu and had taken interest in her hobby of making medicinal creams, but had told her not to tell anyone about it unless it was life and death. Despite their rigorous training schedule, they would allot one day to rest and hang out. Hinata found herself very often at Naruto's apartment or his favorite ramen stand nowadays. She was surprised by the cleanliness in his apartment, and had even been lent the cleaning seals he used for her own room. As she was thinking, she saw someone enter the room and her face lit up in a smile. Naruto stepped inside the classroom with a bored look on his face. He looked around and found the person he was looking for. He gave a wide smile as he saw Hinata and made his way toward her, ignoring the stares of the other students. "I like the new look, Hinata-chan. But I think you look good in anything." Hinata blushed at the compliment. She was also wearing new clothes. She got rid of her bulky jacket and traded it for a white blouse over a more fitting lavender jacket with no hood. She also wore a pair of tight shorts that reached just below her knee. Her new attire also revealed her curvy figure she had thanks to all her training. This drew many admiring looks from the boys and many jealous stares from the girls. "Thank you, Naruto-kun. You look nice as well. So, you ready for this?" "As ready as I ever will be. It's all because of your help that I got this far, Naruto-kun." Naruto shook his head. "No, Hinata-chan. You did it all by yourself. I only gave you advice and helped you improve. Don't sell yourself short. You're an amazing—" Naruto couldn't continue as he felt his danger sense tingling and dodged out of the way of a punch, courtesy of Sakura. "Baka. Don't think just because you got new clothes that you'll look better. Stop trying to act cool like Sasuke-kun." Naruto looked at her with a bored look. Did you say something?" A silver-haired masked Jonin who was standing in front of the memorial stone sneezed. It seems like someone has managed to follow my way of life." Sakura shrieked and was about to punch him again when everyone settled down. The clock struck 8. And Iruka entered the classroom, followed by Mizuki. The class settled down once Iruka used his big head no jutsu and Mizuki handed out the papers. As he gave it to Naruto, a very ugly sneer appeared on his face, kind of like a sick smile. Naruto looked at his paper and back to Mizuki, who seemed to be glowing with triumph. Naruto sent an "Are you kidding me?" look mixed in a deadpan stare. He then promptly dispelled the genjutsu on the test, making a blank page appear. "So this is your game," he thought with amusement. Raising his hand, he said in a cool tone that perfectly matched his facial expression of bored indifference, "Mizuki-sensei, I believe that you put this blank page here by mistake." Mizuki's thunderous expression almost made him smirk, but he reined it in with experience. He came up to Naruto, a smile straining his face. "Thanks for pointing it out, Naruto. Good thing you spotted it. Otherwise you would have failed," he said, placing the real test on his desk. Turning back, a furious expression came across his face. How did the demon spot the genjutsu? He never could do it before. Usually when tests were conducted, Naruto would purposely answer so that he would stay near the bottom. But today, he let his intelligence shine through. He wasn't holding back today. He finished the paper with 20 minutes to spare, but kept the appearance of writing to avoid suspicion. He could see that Sakura and Sasuke had also finished roughly at the same time. It was not surprising since Sakura was considered the class bookworm and Sasuke was quite intelligent. Everyone finished roughly the same time around. Next was the accuracy and taijutsu tests. Iruka had everyone line up as they prepared for the shuriken and kunai accuracy part of the exam. They were tasked with nailing the targets with 5 of each of the weapons. Shino was the first up and managed to nail 9 out of 10 targets. Choji was next and managed to nail 6 out of 10. Shikamaru managed to get 5 but he was too lazy. Iruka sighed and called the next student. Sakura got 4 of the targets. Hinata managed to hit 9 out of 10, surprising most of the class. Hiba missed 2 of the targets. Sasuke, being the talented but arrogant Uchiha, he was through all of the projectiles simultaneously and got a perfect 10. Finally, it was Naruto's turn. Naruto stepped up and picked up the weapons and prepared to throw them. Iruka prayed silently that he would at least get a passing grade. Then Naruto surprised them all by turning around and throwing the weapons simultaneously just like Sasuke did, but with one slight difference: he threw them all backward. Everyone's jaw hit the ground as Naruto nailed all of the targets without looking. He turned around and gave an approving nod as he walked back. He glanced at Mizuki and saw that he looked like someone shit on his breakfast and made him eat it. He gave the Chunin a smirk, infuriating him. Hinata giggled as he reached her. Don't you think that was a bit too much? They haven't seen anything yet. Besides, he whispered in her ear. My entire academy performance was one big prank on the teachers. Hinata had to work hard to stifle her laughter. Naruto-kun was always a prankster at heart and loved to mess with people whenever he got the chance. Iruka was still in a state of disbelief, shock and pride. His student was able to hit all of the targets perfectly without looking. What's more is that the student was Naruto, the class clown, prankster and dead last who couldn't even hit more than 2 shuriken and kunai. However, he quickly shook himself from the surprised stupor. Well done, Naruto. Pride was evident in his voice as he praised the blonde. That was an excellent display of accuracy. Ino was the last and she managed to get 6 out of 10. As the class headed for the taijutsu portion of the exam, Sasuke had a frown on his face. Naruto was acting differently from the loud, boisterous and orange-loving knucklehead he used to be. He pushed the thoughts aside as he thought of his real goal. Alright, next up is Hinata Hyuga, Iruka announced. The objective of the taijutsu exam was relatively simple. All you had to do was to last at least 5 minutes in the sparring circle with Mizuki-sensei as the opponent. If one managed to stay within the circle in that amount of time, then they passed. If one submitted or got thrown out of the circle, they would lose and get a meager grade. So far, only few got any noticeable marks during the test phase. Choji was able to last for 3 minutes before he got thrown out of the circle. Shikamaru didn't bother to fight and threw in the towel as soon as Iruka-sensei started his match. Sakura was mostly book smart and wasn't really strong due to her dieting to gain Sasuke's attention. She tried her best, but in the end, she was knocked out of the circle in less than 2 minutes. Ino wasn't any better. Hiba and Shino got in 4 minutes before they stepped out of the circle. Sasuke, of course, managed to go toe-to-toe with Mizuki-sensei and was the first to last the longest out of everyone. The girls all cheered and shouted praise at his accomplishment. Sasuke-kun is so cool. One of them shouted. Sasuke-kun is the best. Sakura shouted. Ino nodded in agreement. If anyone will be Rookie of the Year, it will be Sasuke-kun. Shikamaru just sighed. Troublesome. Why do girls have to be so loud? Hinata hesitated a bit, but then she felt Naruto give her hand a comforting squeeze. You'll do great, Hinata-chan. He gave her a confident grin that always made her heart flutter inside. She nodded and took her place in the circle a few feet away from Mizuki. Hinata struck up her Juken stance as she waited for Iruka to begin the match. Hajime. The fight that took place consisted mostly of Mizuki unleashing a set of attacks but never even came close to hitting Hinata. The pale-eyed girl used her fluid movements to dodge the older Chunin's onslaught of kicks and punches. Naruto smiled as he watched her gracefully swinging her arms and legs as she moved to dodge a roundhouse kick from Mizuki. During their training, Naruto had found that due to her element being water, Hinata would find it difficult to perform the original Juken. Thus they worked on the Juken and also modified it to make her movements more flowing, like water. She looked like she was dancing that it was so mesmerizing to watch. Most of the students were also admiring Hinata's movements to dodge the attacks. Eventually, her time was up and she dropped her stance as she bowed toward Mizuki, who was looking a bit winded. Way to go, Hinata-chan. Naruto congratulated her. The girl blushed a little bit at hearing Naruto's praise. Great job, Hinata, Iruka said. He was pleased to know that at least one kunoichi was taking her training seriously instead of obsessing over one boy. He marked down her score and called the last student. Naruto Uzumaki. Good luck, Naruto-kun. Hinata said as Naruto made his way to the circle. He shot her a smile and wink, making her blush, and entered the circle. This is going to be good, Shikamaru muttered. Naruto stood a few feet away from a smug-looking Mizuki, with a neutral look in his face. His eyes, however, were that of steel. He knew that Mizuki would use this chance to act out his frustrations of not being able to fail him. He waited for Iruka to start the fight, Hajime. Mizuki didn't want to pull any punches against the demon. So he shot forward at full speed, surprising Iruka and the rest of the class. However, to Naruto, he was moving at a snail's pace. He dodged Mizuki's first punch that was aimed at his head and blocked the follow-up roundhouse kick from his right side. Then, the Chunin instructor threw another punch and the blonde boy fell into a crouch to avoid the blow. Naruto used both his legs to push off from the ground and slammed his right knee under Mizuki's chin. The forceful blow lifted the Chunin off his feet and was almost at the edge of the circle. Not wanting to lose the advantage, Naruto shot forward, surprising Mizuki, but he managed to block the punch aimed for the head. Naruto, however, decided to use a leg sweep which Mizuki jumped over. The Chunin instructor, however, was surprised when Naruto caught his ankle and threw him to the other side. He managed to right himself but immediately felt a kick to the abdomen, pushing him out of the ring. Game, set, match. Naruto said calmly. He turned back to see the shocked faces of his classmates. Iruka dropped his clipboard. He resisted the urge to snicker as Kurama was laughing heartily at the faces of the students and instructors. Great job, Naruto-kun. Hinata said. She was surprised at Naruto's strength but was happy that he not only passed but beat Mizuki. Naruto scratched the back of his head sheepishly. Thanks, Hinata-chan. He whispered into her ear. He just underestimated me is all. Next was the ninjutsu portion. Naruto went to the back of the class and pulled out a book and began reading, ignoring the stares of the students and the narrowed gaze of a certain Uchiha. Sasuke brooded as usual, but had a bit of anger to it. The Dobi could never be able to land a hit on me during our spars, yet he managed to knock Mizuki out of the ring. How did he do that? This book is very interesting. Naruto thought as he read the Tips and Tricks of Fuinjutsu 2, written by his parents. So engrossed he was that he almost missed his name being called out. He snapped his book shut and put it in his pocket. He then proceeded into the next room. Iruka and Mizuki were sitting on chairs, a desk in front of them. Mizuki watched with barely hidden glee. Today you will fail, demon. All right Naruto, perform the Henge no Jutsu, Iruka instructed. Naruto nodded and formed the ram seal. A puff of smoke later, the Nadaime Hokage was standing in front of them. Iruka smiled. Naruto was full of surprises today. Very good, Naruto. Now perform the Kawarimi no Jutsu. Naruto nodded and a second later, Mizuki was sitting on the ground, wondering how he came there. A second later, he turned furious eyes onto Naruto, who was looking a little too innocent. I'm sorry sensei, are you okay? He asked, with fake concern in his voice. Mizuki got up and brushed himself. I'm okay, Naruto, don't worry, he said with gritted teeth. Iruka nodded approvingly. Excellent Naruto, you performed it without smoke and without seals too. You get extra points for that. He looked up from the paper and said, lastly, perform the Bunshin no Jutsu. There was some fear in his voice. Naruto barely performed it properly last time. But Naruto surprised them yet again. Holding up a half-ram seal, there was a puff of smoke and 3 Narutos were standing in front of him. Of course, they were actually Kage Bunshin, but they didn't need to know that. He was actually proud that he only needed a half-ram to execute Kage Bunshin, instead of the full seal. Iruka nodded in congratulations. Mizuki looked shocked, but grudgingly congratulated the newly graduated genin. Congratulations Naruto, here is your Hitai 8 forehead protector. Wear it with pride. Naruto received it from Iruka and slightly bowed in respect and tied it to his left shoulder. He didn't need to look at Mizuki to see the man's outraged expression. Walking out the room, he ignored the surprised looks of his classmates and headed for the toilets. Once in the toilets he made a clone, who left for the classroom. After checking to see if the coast was clear, he vanished. Naruto wasted little time after the test and went inside to the grove in order to meet his sensei. Once inside, he reported how the test went and told Tobirama about Mizuki's attempt in sabotaging his written test. Tobirama heard it all with a frown on his face. He really wished he could leave the cave and go teach this Mizuki a lesson. He figured one single exploding tag would do the trick. Wishes aside, it was finally time to address a serious topic with his student. Naruto, regarding this subject, I advise you to report it to Suru. Suru being the Sandame's nickname. Sometimes, Naruto had to control himself not to call him that. Naruto nodded with a smirk on his face. If he played his cards right, then the Hokage would listen to him and he could get payback for all the sabotage in the academy. Tobirama saw the prankster smile on his student and smiled in return. He always believed in the good side of pranking on shinobi. Now Naruto, since you managed to graduate, I have a matter of great importance to talk to you. The prankster smile kept on for a while, but Naruto dropped it when he saw the water whip forming behind Tobirama, ready to call on his attention. Sorry, what is it? Since you managed to graduate and have reached an acceptable level of my teachings, there is no more need for me to remain. Naruto's eyes widened, but Tobirama crossed his arms. I've told you from the start that my being here had one single purpose. I have already bestowed upon you my legacy, my student, and I'm sure you will only grow in time. Naruto fought very hard to control the tears that threatened to escape his eyes. Yeah, the man focused only on training. His occasional water whips were also a pain in the ass to deal with, but for 6 whole years, Tobirama-sensei gave him so much. Naruto had known that this moment would come, and had prepared for it, but it still stung. After all, the man was also his great-grandfather, even if he was an essence of chakra. He was family. Tobirama sighed. That won't mean, however, that you will be on your own from here on out. You have the entire Senju library at your disposal. I trust you will use that to further your knowledge on your Mokuden ninjutsu with the scrolls Anija, elder brother, had placed there, as well as working on your chakra theory, which will surely revolutionize the concept of subelemental manipulation. Tobirama's essence began to waver. However, Naruto was startled when he saw a different smile. Naruto, since this is the last time we shall meet, allow me to say with great pride that you were the greatest student I ever had. As such, I shall entrust you with one last mission. Train hard and commit yourself into learning more and more, and above all else, use the skills I taught you and the ones you will learn to protect Konohagakure and its citizens. He walked towards Naruto and put his hand on Naruto's head. I'm proud of you, not only as your teacher, but also as your great-grandfather. Train hard and be well, my great-grandson. Work hard and carry on as the Senju Uzumaki heir. Naruto cried, but he returned the smile with gratitude for everything they've been through. Naruto bowed at the man one last time and vowed to train hard and be of great service to the village hidden in the leaves. Tobirama slowly faded away and Naruto listened to the reverberating echo of the waterfall with a smile on his face. Turning around, he left the cave and flashed to his apartment, but not before he bowed one last time to where the man once stood, the man he came to respect as much as, if not more than his father. Naruto decided to head to Ichiraku's for a bowl of celebratory ramen, much to Kurama's irritation. He was about to head out when he stiffened at the sudden rush of memories. Blinking, he frowned at the memories he got from his clone in the academy. Clone's memories. Heading back to the classroom, he came in just as Iruka entered the room. Everyone settled down, Iruka yelled. After everyone was seated, he said, those people who have passed will come in a week in the morning for team assignments. You can leave now. Naruto was heading out the academy with Hinata when he sensed someone coming. He hid his scowl. What does Mizuki want now? Mizuki came up behind Naruto. Congratulations on passing, Naruto. Can I have a moment with you? He almost threw up in his mouth saying that. Naruto curtly replied, thanks. He said no more than that. He didn't need to. Mizuki approached him, so would be the one to talk. He turned to Hinata. I'll see you in a week, all right. She nodded and walked back home. I was impressed on how you performed, Naruto. But you see, there is a special test that only few genin are selected to do. I will offer you a chance to do it, if you're interested, he said. Naruto just looked at the man. What a idiot, he thought. But he wanted to see where this was going. Really, Mizuki-sensei? He hopefully asked. Mizuki smiled at how easily he fooled the demon. Yeah. You just need to take a scroll from the Hokage vault in the Hokage's office and bring it to me beside the old shed at midnight. You know that, right? Bring it to me and you can even be considered Rookie of the Year. he said and walked away. Naruto watched him go. Then shaking his head, he said to himself, the boss will want to know about this. He poofed into smoke. Clone's memories end. He really has a very low opinion of you, doesn't he? Kurama commented. Naruto mentally agreed. He just asked me to steal the forbidden scroll. What a moron, he thought as he flashed back to his apartment. He had a seal to make. Hiruzen sat in his office, his hands massaging his forehead, trying to soothe the growing headache that was forming. Just a few minutes earlier, Naruto had strolled into his office with some serious accusations. Mizuki Tsuji, the Chunin Academy instructor and assistant of Iruka Yumino, had tried to sabotage Naruto's exam and had even tried to persuade him to steal the forbidden scroll. Said boy was standing in front of him waiting for his orders. Orders, Hokage-sama. Hiruzen closed his eyes. After a moment, he opened them and said, you can take a spare scroll and place a seal on it to look like the original. I will have an Anbu trail you from the shadows to apprehend him once he's out of commission while you distract him. Naruto nodded as Hiruzen then called out, cat. A purple-haired Anbu with a cat mask appeared in front of him. Hokage-sama. From the voice, Naruto could tell it was feminine. He then noticed the hair color and the ninjutsu on her back and remembered something. That's Yugao Azuki. Ka-san's student and the Anbu who would watch me when I was little. Follow Genin Uzumaki from a distance and apprehend the traitor once he's out of commission. Hi, Hokage-sama. Hiruzen then led them to the Hokage vault and showed them the scroll, not knowing that Naruto had already known what it looked like, not to mention the jutsu in it thanks to Tobirama's memories. It had the Kage Bunshin, its explosive counterpart the Bunshin Daibakua, Great Clone Explosion, and the Gojo Kibaku Fuda, a technique created by the Nadaime which consisted of self-replicating exploding tags. After seeing the scroll, Naruto borrowed a spare scroll and placed the required seals in it. He was about to leave when, Naruto-kun, it would be best if you made it look like you made it past me instead of me letting you pass. Naruto thought for a moment, then a mischievous grin appeared on his face. Don't fight it, he said as he blurred through hand signs. Genjutsu. Hentai no Rakuin, illusion art, pervert's paradise. Hiruzen was puzzled when he heard Naruto's words, then suddenly his eyes glazed over. He began to drool and suddenly rocketed backwards with blood coming out of his nose, falling unconscious with a perverted smile on his face. Naruto barely kept himself from laughing out loud as he flash-stepped out and into the forest, Cat following suit after gaping at the Hokage and shaking her head. Naruto sat at the rendezvous point near the old shed, with Neko and some of his clones hiding in the shadows should anything go wrong with the initial plan. He was resting when he suddenly got the alert from a clone about Mizuki approaching. Keep his senses open, he put his guard up. 5 minutes later, Mizuki appeared before them, smiling smugly. Well done, Naruto, now hand over the scroll to me. He said. Naruto tossed the scroll over to Mizuki. In his obsession over the scroll, Mizuki didn't notice Naruto discreetly making a half-ram sign. The moment he caught the scroll, Mizuki immediately felt 1,000 volts of electricity searing through his body. He opened his mouth to let out a scream when he felt a sharp pain on his neck. He was unconscious even before he hit the ground. Naruto immediately flash-stepped to the unconscious body and immediately made a prisoner scroll from scratch. He finished making the seal and had sealed Mizuki's body when Cat landed in front of him. Well done, Uzumaki. You managed to catch the traitor. I was unaware you knew Fuinjutsu. That could explain some of your pranks. Thank you, Cat-san. It was an honor working with the Anbu, especially with Kushina Uzumaki's student. Cat's eyes widened behind her mask. How did I know who my mother is? Plus your hair gave you away. Cat stood still for a moment then sighed. She looked around and then slowly took off her mask, revealing one of the most beautiful faces Naruto had seen, much to the blonde's surprise. I believe we haven't been introduced. You may already know my name, but I'll tell it once more. Yugao Azuki. Pleasure to meet you at last, Naruto-kun. Yugao said with a smile. Naruto smiled back. Pleasure to meet you, Yugao-san. Yugao is fine. Very well, Yugao. We better report back to Hokage-sama. Would you mind sparring sometime in the future? I usually spar with Anko-sensei once in a while. Yugao looked at him in surprise. You're the one pushing Anko-chan so much. That's surprising. Are you interested in Kenjutsu? Seeing Naruto nod, she smiled. That's great. We can spar sometime. But now, let's get back to the Hokage. Picking up the scrolls, they vanished in a shunshin. Naruto and Yugao returned to the Hokage after dropping the scroll containing Mizuki off at the torture and interrogation unit. The Hokage faced them as they stood in front of him, in full attention. Well done, Kat and Naruto. You managed to stop Mizuki from escaping, and exposed him as a traitor. You both shall receive pay for AB rank mission. I shall add this as AB rank to your records. Kat, you're dismissed. Naruto-kun, please stay behind. Kat bowed, and after a nod to Naruto, left the office. Once they were alone, Hiruzen activated the new privacy seals. Naruto had improved them at his behest. He looked at Naruto, smiling internally. He really is your descendant Tobirama-sensei. You would be proud if you had met him. Hiruzen thought. Outwardly he asked, so, do you wish to take up the Senju name? Naruto shook his head. Not until the Chunin exams. I need to be strong enough to defend myself against Tusan's enemies. Also, have you made contact with Tsunade Ba-chan? Even during my time as Arashi, it was pretty hard to run into her. Heck, I ran into Jiraiya, and he's our spy master. The Hokage sighed. Unfortunately not, Naruto-kun. She's pretty hard to find, despite Jiraiya's attempts to find her. Anyway, I believe team placement will be in a week. Also remember to keep Tobirama-sensei's training an S-ranked secret for now. Is there anything else? Naruto frowned when he heard about Tsunade, but let it slide for now. Yes, actually. He took out a pouch and took multicolored sand in his free hand. With his chakra he separated the colors in 3 seconds. Looking at Hiruzen, who was wearing an expression similar to a goldfish, he asked, you think you can arrange a way to help me learn medical ninjutsu under a henge? I really don't want to expose my knowledge before the Chunin exams unless it's necessary. The Hokage regained his composure and nodded. Yes, I can. Report to the hospital and ask for Arata, the head medic, and tell him I sent you. He'll understand when I tell him as well. If that is all, you're dismissed. Good night. Hi. Good night, Gigi. Naruto saluted him and vanished to the Hiraishin seal in his apartment. I really envy him for knowing that jutsu. Hiruzen mumbled to himself. He turned and saw that paperwork was done for the day. With a sigh of relief, he decided to turn in. Naruto reached his apartment, took off his clothes and fell onto the bed in his boxers. Pulling the covers on him, he smiled and closed his eyes. His shinobi life was off to a great start. Things are going to be interesting, he thought as he drifted off. Chapter text. Naruto had a hard time sleeping that night, but he could hardly be blamed. He was officially a ninja. On top of that, he would meet his new teammates next week. Although he had a bad feeling about that. Over the years, his body had an internalized clock, which was very beneficial health-wise, but unfortunately did not allow him to sleep more than 7 hours, no matter how much he wanted to. At 5 in the morning, his eyes would snap open by themselves, his body having sufficiently rested itself and ready for the day. As was the case today. Which was why he was so confused when he woke up at his regular time of 5 in the morning, not feeling any tiredness from the events of last night. While not complaining at the lack of tiredness, irritation took hold of him. By all means, he should have easily slept till 9 in the morning. No use whining about it. Best start the day as usual. He mentally grumbled and got out of bed. Quickly finishing his morning rituals and dressing up, he took 2 bananas and gobbled them up. He figured his irritation would be gone by the end of his morning run. Inside his mind, Kurama was trying to keep his sniggers from echoing in Naruto's mind. He had initially decided to let Naruto rest because of his late night, but his sense of mischief decided to manifest itself and he changed his decision. He let a larger amount of his chakra than usual in Naruto's body, just enough so Naruto would wake up at his usual time instead of his natural 7 hours. Stepping outside, Naruto felt the slightly chilly air of the morning. The sky was still dark, but it was perfect for him. A sudden thought struck him. How about I run with my resistance seals off today? Get used to the normal speed. What do you say, Kurama? Kurama gave a yawn that reverberated through Naruto's mind. He forcefully kept his jaw clenched to prevent his own from happening. Kurama replied, "It's a good idea. It's been a while since you used your full speed. You should get used to running without seals every once in a while, Naruto. Otherwise, you wouldn't be able to control your own speed. You would just speed past the place you intend to stop." Naruto nodded, agreeing with Kurama. The last time he used those seals was when he fought Raiga Kurosuke, one of the 7 swordsmen of the Hidden Mist, about 6 months ago. It was his hardest fight till date, being sure that had he not released the seals and had a good grasp of wind manipulation, he would have lost. He managed to defeat him but spared him at the behest of his companion, a child named Rinmara, who had a Kekkei Genkei that would render most Dujutsu like the Sharingan and Byakugan useless. After learning how his eyes worked, Naruto had finally completed the seal he had been working on to neutralize the effects of dojutsu on him. Raiga had decided to return to the Hidden Mist and join the rebels in the Civil War, taking Rinmara with him. He wondered if his father had the same problems with his seals, but pushed those thoughts aside. Best get used to it gradually, he thought. Making a ram seal, he lowered the resistance seal on his body from level 15 to level 8. He had increased it during his training with Tobirama. The change was immediate. He felt really light and like the amount of energy in his body had been doubled. He started running and was surprised at his own speed. Kurama had been frighteningly accurate. He was currently running at a speed which children would call close to sprinting, and the worrying part about the whole thing was, he wasn't even controlling it. How the hell did I beat Raiga again? He wondered before shaking his head. At the end of this run, I will get used to this, he determinedly thought. It took him almost 5 rounds of the village to get used to it, and by the end of 5 rounds, he was comfortably running at the speed he usually ran, not having any feeling of being tired at all. I wonder if this feeling can be compared to freedom, he thought with a smile. Running without a care in the world, feeling as if nothing is holding you back. Eventually he decided to sprint all out, and once he started feeling tired, he would run without any resistance, getting used to running without it. After 1.5 laps of sprinting, he began panting and figured that the time was right to release the seal. He was just about to do it when he saw something ahead of him. He was closing in on a person wearing a, oh god, is that a spandex jumpsuit? He was very much grossed out by the sight and figured that overtaking the person was in his best interest. Instantly releasing the seal, he shot forward once more, having not increased the pace by himself at all. He was soon running neck and neck with a kid probably his own age who had a shining bowl-cut hairstyle and huge eyebrows which looked more like caterpillars. Bandages wrapped up his forearms and in his Hittite forehead protector, wrapped as a belt. He also wore orange leg warmers. The kid glanced towards him and flashed a brilliant smile of white teeth shining like metal. He spoke in a loud voice. "A very youthful morning to you. May I know who you are?" Naruto rose an eyebrow at the loud voice. Perhaps this is his normal way of speaking, he mused. Somehow, a quiet voice did not suit this guy. And what was with the youthful morning? It sounded awfully familiar. Outward he said, "Good morning. It is nice to see someone else running at this time. My name is Naruto, by the way." He expected the usual frown of disgust and hate, but he did not expect the boy to react. "My name is Rock Lee, Naruto-kun. You seem like a very youthful person, running at this speed in the early morning. You are clearly basking in the springtime of youth." Naruto stared at him as if he was speaking an entirely different language, which he probably was because he did not understand a word he said. Inside his mind, Kurama had kept his eyes shut tightly. He had already scarred his mind by seeing Lee. He did not want to go insane from seeing him in motion. Naruto did the only thing he could do without upsetting the boy. "Hey, Lee, how about we talk later? I'm in a bit of a hurry." Saying that, he sprinted ahead at full speed, leaving Lee to taste his dust. He felt bad about leaving him like that because there was a chance that that boy would be his future comrade, but he wanted to get used to his mannerisms slowly. The youth coming from Lee terrified him. Lee stared at the dust with wide eyes. Stars seemed to twinkle around him. "What youth? To be faster than me with my weights off. Guy-sensei will be surprised when he hears of this. Shouting this, he ran off in his own cloud of dust. Naruto ran full sprint until he reached his house. Climbing up the stairs, he thought about what he had observed while talking to Lee. While the bandages covered most of his forearms, the fingertips were exposed. And they were scratched and bruised, heavily. That indicated that Lee trained his ass off every day. He also sensed Lee's chakra, which was so low that someone would mistake him for a civilian. Which probably indicated that Lee was running on speed, without any chakra. That meant Lee was a pure taijutsu type fighter. The amount of hard work it must have taken to achieve that speed. Lee truly has my utmost respect for his hard work. He thought with admiration. Kurama agreed, a genius of hard work, he truly is. He flashed to the Senju compound. Once there, he made a beeline for the portal to the Senju library. Upon reaching his destination, he deactivated the security seals and looked around the Nadime's library. He found that the Nadime was pretty much proficient in every branch of the shinobi arts. Advanced taijutsu and kenjutsu katas, genjutsu and counter-genjutsu techniques, elemental and non-elemental ninjutsu, fuinjutsu, space-time ninjutsu, you name it, he had it. Naruto was happy to note that the elemental jutsu had two types of learning. One for a normal user, and one for a high affinity like Tobirama, who could perform the most complex of jutsu with just a single hand seal. Reading the scrolls got him nostalgic. He remembered when Tobirama had taught him the Suiro no Jutsu, water style, water prison. He had been fighting a clone when the real Tobirama came and trapped him in it. While the range was limited, he was able to use it in tandem with his Kage Bunshin. To his dismay, he found that he could not substitute with his clones while in the prison. He decided to start practice with a jutsu from each element. He was currently working on the Sushoha water style, water shockwave, where the user gathered water in a defensive barrier around them, before the accumulating geyser turned into a furious wave towards the target. After choosing the jutsu he wanted to work on, he went into the Senju Grove, where he created 50 clones in the backyard, 10 clones each to work on all except the water jutsu, deciding to work on that in the cave. The extra 10 clones worked on ice and wood manipulation. After creating the clones and giving them orders, he went to the cave. He had 1 hour for water manipulation and wind manipulation, followed by creating clones who would work on jutsu practice while he worked on physical exercises like taijutsu, kenjutsu and shuriken jutsu for 2 hours. Kneeling on top of the lake, Naruto closed his eyes. Extending his chakra throughout the water source, he began to reach for the water molecules hovered in the air. In no time, the once invisible molecules started to appear in front of him like rain droplets hovering in the air. When the boy felt comfortable with the amount, he opened his eyes and smiled at the scene before him. It always amazed him to see the cave filled with water droplets. It made him miss his great-grandfather and sensei even more. He still remembered the man standing behind him with his arms crossed and a stern visage. Speeding through the hand seals at a fast rate, he began to mold his chakra. Sweden. Sushoha. As per the scroll's description, the water swirled around him and then shot upwards and crashed down to hit the opposite wall, where it was absorbed by a seal present. He had created that seal to absorb the excess water to prevent flooding the cave. Satisfied, he warmed up with stretches and created another 40 clones. The clones looked at him and merely nodded, getting their orders directly via the mental link. The original Naruto went through the various katas he learned under Tobirama and Anko. He would mix the Nadime's style with the Shodime's as per his sensei's instruction. Adding the academy style along with it, he created a whole new style, to add on to his mastery of the elemental fist. After a while, he decided to spar with his clones. Dodging and weaving through various punches, kicks and water whips, Naruto managed to hold his own on the water for an hour before tiring. Satisfied, he left the cave to freshen up. Looking in the mirror and satisfied with the results, he left to get his registration done. Naruto stood in front of the Hokage as the aged leader looked over his registration form. Very well, Naruto-kun. Your registration has been accepted. I'm glad you decided to get rid of that orange jumpsuit. Hiruzen said with a smile, receiving one from the blonde in return. He was about to turn and leave when the door burst open. "Old man, I challenge you," a squeaky voice shouted. Naruto looked to see a short brown-haired boy wearing a yellow t-shirt and blue shorts, having a gray helmet on his head and holding a shuriken charging at Hiruzen. "I'm going to defeat you," and he was cut off when the wooden shuriken in his hand vanished and ended up being stuck to the wall by a kunai. "What were you thinking, trying to attack the Hokage like that?" asked Naruto with a raised eyebrow. Hiruzen sighed. "Naruto, this is my grandson, Konohamaru." The boy named Konohamaru grinned. "Hey, scared that you attacked me in front of my grandfather?" Naruto gave him his patented look, which made Konohamaru blush with embarrassment and Hiruzen to smirk inwardly. "I don't care if he's your grandmother, kid. Now beat it." He looked at Hiruzen. "I'll see you later, Hokage-sama." With a bow, he turned and was about to leave the office when, "Honorable grandson, are you all right? Oh, it's you," said a man wearing the standard Konoha uniform without the flak jacket, with a bandana covering his head and dark glasses. Naruto looked at him and immediately recognized the look. He sighed and went past him. The man followed him with his eyes, then turning around, he said, "Honorable grandson, you should not associate with delinquents like that boy. I, Elite Junin Ebisu, shall teach you the way to be Hokage." He adjusted his glasses with a smug smirk on his face. "Ebisu, he's not here. He left during your speech," Hiruzen informed him with a deadpan look. Naruto was walking along the streets, as usual ignoring the glares of the villagers. He wanted to expand his knowledge of medical ninjutsu, but he didn't want to go to the hospital and learn as himself. Making up his mind, he made a clone who hanged himself into a random ninja and proceeded to the hospital while he continued on. He suddenly sensed a presence and turned around. "Why are you following me, kid? You saw through my disguise. Wow, you must be strong," said Kid replied. He then continued, "I want you to train me, boss." "Huh, boss, and why should I train you?" Naruto asked with a raised eyebrow. "Yes, you're my boss. And you are the first person to not call me honorable grandson. Everyone calls me that and I want to be acknowledged for me and not my grandfather," Konohamaru said, looking down. Naruto's gaze softened. Konohamaru was like him in a sense, wanting to be acknowledged for himself. "Very well, Konohamaru," he said. "What do you know about chakra?" A couple of hours later, Naruto and Konohamaru were in a training ground, where Konohamaru was trying to balance a leaf on his forehead. So far, he was failing. "Don't worry, Konohamaru. These exercises take time. Continue to practice and work hard. The road to Hokage isn't easy, you know. You want to be at the top right now, to be Hokage as soon as possible so people will see you for you. But the fact is that being Hokage is a long and hard road. It takes dedication, skill and hard work. You have to be willing to bleed, and cry and sweat in order to be the strongest shinobi you can. You have to train both mind and body. But most importantly, you have to be willing to risk your life for the sake of this village and its people. And also," Naruto looked at Konohamaru with a serious expression, causing the younger Mallet to gulp. "You have to remember the most important truth about how to become Hokage." "Oh yeah," Konohamaru puffed out his chest. "What truth is that?" "That there are no shortcuts to being Hokage," Naruto said, his eyes taking on a fierce and determined look. "By trying to take the easy path you limit yourself, you weaken yourself, because you weren't willing to take the harder road. Weren't willing to train until you dropped, or work until you felt all your muscles straining against each other. No ninja in this village would respect a Hokage who took the easy way out of everything. Sometimes Hokages have to make hard choices and deal with the consequences of those choices. It takes a kind of commitment that very few people have, and those who don't have it need to get out of the way for those who do." Naruto stared at Konohamaru, the boy a little red in the face and looked like his eyes were on the brink of turning into swirls. He was trying to come to terms with all of the information he had just received and felt completely overwhelmed. However, one of the things Naruto had said rang through his mind. "Besides, if you're going to be Hokage, you're going to have to defeat me first." "You want to be Hokage too?" shouted Konohamaru. "Fine, then, from now on, we're rivals for the title of Hokage." Naruto chuckled. Very well, I accept your challenge to be your rival. But remember, you have a long way to go if you have to catch up. Work hard and don't give up. By the way, your teacher is arriving soon. I'll see you later, Konohamaru, he said, walking off. Unknown to the two, the Hokage was watching the entire exchange with a smile on his face. Thank you, Naruto-kun, for showing Konohamaru-kun the true path of a ninja. Day of team placement. Hopping on the rooftops gave Naruto a sense of thrill, which not many shinobi felt because of it being unusual for them. But many shinobi did not perform tricks on the rooftops as well. The flips and every sort of cartwheel he could think of were performed with the highest level of precision. His every landing, flip, roll was perfectly executed. The people below stared at him. Some were the usual glares, while a few of them had expressions of awe. It was rare for them to see someone performing such tricks on rooftops with such expertise. Of course, Naruto was too lost in the thrill to notice. It had been a normal week for him. He would send a hanged clone to the hospital to shadow and learn from the staff, while he and his clones would work on his Tai, Nin, Ken, Bo, Gen and Fuinjutsu. He had even reacquainted himself with an old friend. Flashback. Naruto walked into Higarashi's weapon shop. He had been a frequent customer here since his Gigi had told him that he wouldn't be kicked out or overpriced. Plus the owner seemed to recognize him and had hinted to knowing his parents. He walked to the counter and was going to place a standard order when he paused. Tenten. The girl at the counter looked up. She was wearing a pink Chinese top with green pants, her brown hair tied up in twin buns over her head. Naruto, is that you? Naruto grinned. In the flesh. How have you been? I've been good. It's my day off from missions. So I thought I'd help Dad. Seems you finally became a genin, huh? Naruto smiled. Yeah, team placements are in a week. Say, would you have time for a spar? Tenten raised an eyebrow, then grinned. Oh, getting cocky aren't we? I still remember when we were kids and were throwing kunai. Still sore about losing. Naruto's eyebrow twitched. I remember. Don't worry. It won't be as easy as last time. He flashed a challenging grin. Tenten smirked. Bring it. Flashback end. They had a spar based on weapons, Naruto's training paying off as he had to hold back a little, one against Tenten in a Kenjutsu and Bojutsu fight, much to the older genin's surprise. However, instead of feeling disheartened, the thought of another weapons user excited her more. Naruto had left after getting his stuff and promising more spars. Needless to say, they were both looking forward to it. Before long, he had reached the academy. Taking a deep breath, he calmed himself, assuring himself that the day would go well, despite the sense of foreboding he was feeling. Hiruzen looked at the Jonin assembled in his office. Each of them would be assigned a team of genin. He had to choose carefully who received each team. The future of Konoha had to be handled extremely carefully. He glanced at the Jonin standing to his right. Kakashi Hatake, a tall, fit man with gravity-defying silver hair, wearing the standard Konoha Jonin uniform with his Hitai slanted to the left covering his left eye, and having the lower half of his face covered by a mask, was sort of glaring at him. Usually, he would be late for the meeting by a good 3 hours unless he was receiving a B rank mission or higher, but the Hokage had threatened to burn his Ika collection, even his hidden collection. So, he was forced to attend on time. But that did not prevent him from glaring at the Hokage. Hiruzen distributed the first 6 teams and asked them to leave, before turning his attention to the more important teams. Team 7 will be led by you, Kakashi, he said, giving the Jonin a nod. Team 8 will be led by Kurenai, he nodded to a black-haired Kunoichi with fair skin and red eyes. Since Team 9 is still in circulation under Guy, Team 10 will be led by Asuma. You may leave, except you, Kakashi. I have to talk to you. As the other Jonin left, there was a noticeable change in Kakashi's posture. The lazy look was gone from his eye, replaced with seriousness. He stood straight with his hands behind his back and back straight, looking at the Hokage. What do you want from me, Hokage-sama? Hiruzen's seriousness of the topic was clear in his voice. Kakashi, you have been given the most important team of all. Since Sasuke Uchiha is on this team, the council will probably force you to pay more attention to him. teach him the ways of the Sharingan and all your jutsu. But you will not play favorites. Is that understood? His voice was like an army commander at the end. Kakashi nodded. Hi, Hokage-sama. Hiruzen then motioned for the Anbu to leave the room. Once the room was completely secure, he leaned forward on his desk, chin resting on his hands. He suddenly seemed to switch from a serious personality to a weary one. Kakashi, Naruto will be on this team as well. That single sentence seemed to bring out Kakashi's memories that he did not want to remember. Memories of his sensei, memories of how he failed to protect Naruto from the villagers. I will not fail this time. You can count on me, Minato-sensei, he thought with resolution. Hiruzen continued in a grave tone, the council will probably tell you to ignore him as much as you can. But you will not do that to the only person who is connected to Minato, would you? Kakashi shook his head and spoke with steel in his voice. No, Hokage-sama. I'm astounded that you would even say that. Hiruzen, however, was unfazed by his outburst. I had to check, Kakashi. I'm sorry for saying that. Kakashi nodded absent-mindedly, his mind already making plans on how to deal with his new team. A thought occurred to him and he asked Hiruzen, is there anything I should know about my team? Hiruzen leant back in his seat, taking a deep breath and blowing the smoke out. I could give you the files of your students, but observing firsthand is a better way. Won't you agree, Kakashi? Kakashi seemed to be in thought for a moment and then I smiled. Perhaps, this time he will be able to correct his mistakes. Entering the classroom, Naruto saw only half of those who had graduated were there. Eyes roaming, he spotted his friends Shikamaru, Choji, Shino, and Hinata sitting in their usual places. Shikamaru was dozing off as usual, Choji was eating potato chips, Shino was examining his bugs, Kiba was playing with Akamaru and Hinata blushed and smiled as soon as she saw him. She was still quiet and reserved but not as shy and insecure. She had finally gained confidence in herself after years of struggle. She realized there was no magic to improving oneself. It was just hard work. Every day, with the help of her best friend and her caretaker, Kurenai Yuhi, she pushed herself. The developments hadn't gone unnoticed in her clan, even if her father hadn't recanted his previous statements about her overall worth. During the week after the exams, Naruto had given her a Fuin bracelet and had explained how it worked. They then trained as usual, following which she wore the bracelet as if it was some kind of treasure. Smiling at her, Naruto made his way to the seat next to her and sat down, ignoring the stares of his fellow students. Soon, he sensed 2 weak chakra signatures before rumbling was heard from the hall. A minute later, the door to the classroom burst open. First, yelled both Sakura and Ino. Soon it devolved into an argument of who and how ended up first between the two most devoted fangirls of the dark-haired Uchiha. Naruto shook his head and tuned out the ramblings and decided to focus on what to train and better himself on. He decided for now, taijutsu, kenjutsu, fuinjutsu and ninjutsu could take precedence now. He would figure out the rest later. Settle down, brats, yelled Iruka with his big head no jutsu. Now listen up, all of you. To everyone here who now wear the Konoha Hitai-8, congratulations. All of you worked hard to become genin and all of you will only grow. Know that this is just the beginning of your careers, however. The Academy's goal is to better prepare you for the shinobi life out there. Naruto mentally snorted at that, while Kurama burst out laughing, remembering what Tobirama thought about it. With that out of the way, you will be forming a 3-man cell team under the leadership of a Junin-sensei. Everyone had different thoughts about this. Ino said to Sakura in a sly tone, I wonder who will be on Sasuke-kun's team. Sakura gave an annoyed glance at her, who knows. However, inner Sakura shouted in her mind, I'm the one who will be on his team. Shanaru. Sasuke thought with a small amount of irritation, a team of 3. Che, they will only burden me and hold me back. Iruka then began announcing the teams. It took a while but he finally announced Naruto's, Naruto Uzumaki. Naruto paid close attention at that. Sakura Haruno, causing a depressed cloud to appear on top of her, I'm on a team with Naruto. Why? Naruto had a more expressive reaction. A purple cloud seemed to form over his head and he banged his head on the table. My life, he groaned as Hinata patted his back consoling him. Many felt sorry for the poor bastard, despite not being his friends. No one deserved Sakura as a teammate. Even Kurama was whispering comforting words such as they could kill her and bury the body. And Sasuke Uchiha, Iruka announced the last name. This time Sakura jumped in joy. Turning around, she flashed a superior smirk at the flabbergasted Ino, who clenched her fists. Inner Sakura was shouting in joy, true love always prevails, Shanaru. Shikamaru simply muttered, troublesome. I agree, said Naruto, making Hinata giggle softly. Team 8 will be Hinata Hyuga, Kiba Inuzuka and Shino Aburame. The three nodded at each other, Kiba grinning, Shino adjusting his glasses, and Hinata smiling. Though she was disappointed that she wasn't on a team with Naruto, she was happy to be in a team with people she knew. Naruto was in thought, trying to divert his mind from his recent depression. Taking in account that their special traits are not in fighting, yep, this is a tracking and backup assault team, with Kiba and Hinata-chan as close range with their taijutsu, and Shino as long range. Team 10 was announced to be Ino, Shikamaru and Choji. The legendary Ino Shikacho is being formed again. Their fathers were a legendary team themselves, after all. This team has two purposes that I can think of. A battle purpose and an information gathering, taking in account Ino's mind techniques, Shikamaru's binding techniques and Choji as a heavy hitter. Understandable, he thought with a smile. That thought process led him to his own team. A tiny frown appeared on his forehead. Sakura does not possess any specialties, except her high level of chakra control. She could do well in Genjutsu or Iryojutsu. Sasuke could be considered a specialist in ninjutsu due to his Sharingan, but that depends on his chakra capacity. He is an expert in Shurikenjutsu, which is to be expected considering who his brother was. His taijutsu will grow by leaps too, once he awakens his Sharingan. My specialty would primarily be ninjutsu and fuinjutsu, followed by taijutsu, kenjutsu and trap making. Naruto's frown disappeared as he realized something, so that's how it is. Our team is a primary, heavy assault team. That old man and Tobirama sensei are really something else, he smiled, shaking his head, impressed by the two Hokage. After announcing the teams, Iruka dismissed them for lunch, telling them to report 2 hours later. Lunch was an uneventful affair, with Naruto, Hinata, Shikamaru, Choji and Shino getting ramen from Ichiraku's and Naruto giving his thoughts on the team formations. 2 hours later, they returned to the academy. Time passed and one by one, Jonin Sensei came to take their teams away. Team 8's sensei was a beautiful woman who Naruto knew as Kurenai Yuhi, Hinata's caretaker. Team 10's sensei was a large man who looked like a bear and had a strong resemblance to Jiji. He introduced himself as Asuma Sarutobi and took his team away. Many hours passed, but there was no sign of Team 7's sensei. Sasuke kept brooding the whole time, though he was starting to look irritated. Sakura looked close to exploding in anger. Naruto was calmly working on a new chakra-suppressing seal that he could use without delay, along with brainstorming ideas for a new jutsu. He was also keeping his senses open, just in case he sensed their sensei. Keeping a leaf balanced on his free hand with chakra to help in chakra control, he did all these tasks in order to help increase his multitasking and awareness. Almost 3 hours of wait later, Naruto sensed a Jonin-level chakra signature heading their way. Sighing in relief, he sealed away his sealing supplies and got up, a revenge in mind for their tardy sensei. Walking up to the door, he made 3 hand signs and slapped his palm on top of the door's ceiling. Snickering, he went back to his seat. That was a seal that successfully worked on Jiji, though he got a water whip beatdown when he tried it on Tobirama sensei. There was no reason it wouldn't work on his sensei. Sakura and Sasuke were curiously watching Naruto. When Naruto applied his seal, they realized for the first time that Naruto was the tallest member of their team. Sakura asked him, "Naruto, what was that?" in her usual tone of "I'm your mother Naruto." Naruto gave her a blank gaze and said, "Something you won't understand, Sakura." Sakura's temper flared and she moved to hit Naruto out of habit, but the door to the classroom opened and all 3 genin watched with shock as the man who opened it got drenched from head to toe in water. Naruto smirked at that, That was a seal designed to activate when someone's chakra came in direct or indirect contact with it. He could store any element in it. Just because he was playing a prank, water was the best choice. Lightning or fire would be very painful. He turned towards the person who was most likely their Jonin-sensei. Kakashi was lost in thought as he finally decided to go to the academy to collect his team. On one hand, there was Sasuke, the last member of the Uchiha clan that was still loyal to the village. Kakashi brought his hand up to the covered left eye. It was his late best friend, Obito Uchiha's last gift to him before he died. He felt a sort of obligation to his friend to train the last bearer of the Sharingan. On the other hand, there was Naruto, his sensei's son and Kakashi's only remaining tie to his late teacher. The person he had failed to protect from the village's hatred. He was shocked to hear that the boy was a certified seal master at his age, getting to know that while being shepherded through Naruto's apartment by the Hokage himself, the latter claiming he wouldn't have gotten in otherwise due to the security seals. The Sandaime had made it clear that Kakashi had until the Chunin exams to increase the number of bonds Naruto had in the village. If he doesn't have any bonds, he may very well leave the village, and Konoha could not afford to lose its only Jinchuriki and a seal master who may or may not have surpassed Jiraiya of the Sannin. Walking up to the classroom door, he was caught off guard when he was suddenly doused in water. Perplexed, he looked up, hoping to find a bucket, but saw nothing but a seal. Naruto's doing, he thought. Eyes narrowed, he looked around the classroom. Sasuke was looking at him with doubt. Is this guy really a Jonin? Sakura looked apologetic as she bowed. Sorry sensei, it is all Naruto's fault. I tried to stop him. Naruto was simply smirking at the Jonin. He had identified the chakra signature as that of Dog, the Anbu who sometimes used to protect him, who he later found out was Kakashi Hatake, his father's student, during his spying sessions, from Tobirama and from what he heard from Anko. However, Naruto's "I know something you don't" smirk definitely put Kakashi on edge. Kakashi was having his own thoughts about the three. Upon seeing Naruto's smirk, he confirmed that Naruto most likely used a seal to play the prank. Turning to Sakura, he thought, Sakura tries to protect herself using excuses. Eyes turning to Sasuke, he saw the boy turn his face back towards the window. Sasuke minds his own business. Doesn't seem to accept the other two as comrades. He sighed internally, there is not a single shred of teamwork in this team at all. Outside, he gripped his chin in a mock thinking pose and said in his lazy voice, how do I put this? My first impression of you guys, well, you're a bunch of idiots. He finished with an eye smile. He could literally see the cloud of depression over Sakura and Sasuke's head, but Naruto kept smirking in that annoying manner, not at all fazed by Kakashi's insult. Deciding to move on, he said, meet me on the roof in 5 minutes. Kakashi then disappeared in a swirl of leaves. Startled by the sudden exit, Sasuke and Sakura scrambled and rushed to the roof, the latter scampering after the former. Naruto sighed. It was a good thing he didn't have to hide his skills anymore, though he would have to hold back just a little bit before the Chunin exams. Grabbing the edge of the window, he swung his feet onto the wall and leisurely walked up it. Kakashi was as usual, buried nose deep in his porn when he felt it. Looking down curiously, he contained his surprise on seeing Naruto walk up to him. The boy was displaying a skill not many people showed before graduating. Yo sensei. Naruto waved with a smile. Kakashi had nothing to say, so he waved back, yo. It really made him feel like an idiot. Naruto walked past him, checking for traps before he sat down on the steps in front of Kakashi. Just as he sat down, Sasuke and Sakura burst through the door, eyes widening when they saw Naruto had already reached ahead of them and was sitting nonchalantly. Sasuke's eyes narrowed. How did the Dobi reach ahead of me? Now that I think about it, I didn't see him following me and Sakura. So how did he get here? Sakura was in a similar state of surprise, but did not think much of it. She immediately sat down beside Sasuke, hearts in her eyes. Kakashi closed his book with a snap and said in his ever-lazy tone, all right, why don't you introduce yourselves? You can start first, Tinkerbell. Sakura scowled at Tinkerbell, and spoke up, Why don't you go first and show us how it's done, sensei? Kakashi pointed a finger at himself. My name is Kakashi Hatake. I have many likes and dislikes. My dreams are none of your business, and you are too young to hear my hobbies. He finished and glanced at Sakura, motioning to continue. Sasuke and Sakura's sweat dropped. All we learned was his name. One only needs to look at that book to figure out his hobbies. Naruto thought. Sakura began speaking. I am Sakura Haruno. I like. She glanced at Sasuke and blushed. My hobbies are. She blushed harder. My dream is. She squealed this time, making Naruto shake his head in disgust. Sasuke showed no reaction. Kakashi asked, dislikes. Sakura was quick to scowl. Ino Pig and Baka Naruto. The feeling's mutual, said Naruto under his breath. Kakashi thought with a resigned sigh, I just had to get a fangirl. He motioned Sasuke to begin. You next, Emo. Sasuke scowled like Sakura at the nickname, but spoke, the name's Sasuke Uchiha. I hate a lot of things. And I don't particularly like anything. What I have is not a dream, because I will make it a reality. I wish to rebuild my clan, and kill a certain man. Sakura looked at Sasuke with hearts in her eyes, thinking, Sasuke-kun is so cool. So he wants to kill Itachi. And doesn't he know that to rebuild his clan he needs girls, and for girls he needs some personality? Naruto thought. Kakashi narrowed his eye a little, as I had thought. He motioned for Naruto to begin, and finally, Blondie. Naruto was not at all offended at his nickname and spoke with a small smile, the name's Naruto Uzumaki. I like ramen, nature and spending time with my precious people, especially a moon-eyed indigo-haired beauty, he thought internally. I dislike the 3 minutes it takes for ramen to cook, traitors, arrogant people, and people who put others down just to feel better about themselves. My hobbies are gardening, training and experimenting with Fuinjutsu, and chakra, but no one needs to know about that. My dream is to rise through the ranks, gain experience and protect the village as its Hokage someday. While his teammates scoffed at him, Kakashi smiled slightly. His hobbies are a bit unusual, but he has certainly grown up in an interesting way. He's got spunk too. Insulted the other two without even coming out and saying it. He then said, all right. All of you are unique and have your own ideals. We will start our duties from tomorrow. But there is something the 4 of us have to do first. The deadpan in his voice was unmistakable. Naruto tilted his head ever so slightly. What would that be, sensei? Survival exercise, Kakashi replied seriously. But we already did enough of it in the academy, sensei, Sakura said with a frown. Kakashi chuckled. This time, it's different because I'm your opponent. What's so funny? Sasuke asked, a little irritated. It's your reaction when you hear this. Of the 27 graduates, only 9 will be made genin. The rest will go back to the academy. As a matter of fact, the failure rate is over 66%. As Kakashi predicted, everyone's eyes went wide at that, Sakura going as far as to gaping. Kakashi laughed and said, told you you'd freak out. Naruto then deduced with narrow eyes, then it is quite clear that the graduation test was just to select those who have the potential to become genin, isn't it? Kakashi raised an eyebrow, that was quite perceptive of him. Looks like you have a lot of secrets, Naruto. He easily ignored Sakura shouting at Naruto for trying to act cool like Sasuke. Anyway, meet me on Training Ground 7, tomorrow morning at 5 o'clock. Skip breakfast if you don't want to throw up. He vanished in a leaf shunshin after that. For a while, none of them moved, thinking of the man's advice. Sasuke got up first and walked away, with Sakura following close behind like a lost puppy, trying to get a date with him. I wonder how long it will take for her to get killed on a mission at this rate, Naruto thought, shaking his head. Deciding preparation was necessary, he shunshined to Training Ground 7. He then spent 3 hours inspecting the training ground to be prepared for the next day, following which he went to his usual training ground to do his training for the day. Perhaps he could even find Anko and get her to spar with him. Naruto laid on his bed, hands tucked behind his bed and eyes up at the ceiling. Anko was tough, though not as tough as before, and she was even kind enough to let him know that he had some openings in his fighting. By that, he meant she used those openings to leave nice big bruises. He was not worried about that though, because he had already closed those openings. Right now, he was mentally conversing with Kurama. How much do I let loose tomorrow, Kurama? The Hiraishin and Sabelements aren't an option. That will only be revealed in the Chunin exams and not before. You can reveal your clones and a jutsu or two from your wind element. You can scare Kakashi Brat with your flash step though. A bit of Fuinjutsu will do as well. But you can also use the Great Fireball. I want to see the look on Uchiha's face. Kurama replied after thinking for a bit, snickering in the end. Naruto ignored that suggestion, which means earth, lightning and fire are out. I'll switch between two Sans and Tobirama Sensei's style in taijutsu, but won't go all out. Besides, it was clever of Kakashi Sensei to mislead us into fighting on an empty stomach, don't you think? He smirked. Kurama smirked in return. Don't make the mistake of underestimating him, Naruto. Kakashi is a very strong shinobi, strong enough to be feared across all shinobi nations in the Third Shinobi War. He is not lacking in the mental department at all. Naruto mentally nodded, acknowledging Kurama's advice. Closing his eyes, he fell into a deep sleep. Tomorrow would be interesting. Glancing out of the apartment he lived in, Sasuke was thankful for the silence the night provided. I will pass this test myself. I will not allow those two to hold me back, he thought. Frowning in thought, he absently tapped the window. The Dobi has been acting differently as of late. His sudden improvement in the graduation test, his clear familiarity with seals, could it be that he was hiding his skills? If so, then why? He has always craved attention, so why would he do something like hiding his skills and personality? Just who are you, Naruto? Sasuke had noticed that Naruto acted very different from his usual loud and idiotic personality in the graduation exam. He was calm and collected, more so than Sasuke usually was. Not many had the ability to see underneath the underneath, not even Sasuke, but he could tell that Naruto was hiding a lot of his abilities. He would make Naruto tell him, because he deserved it more than anyone else, least of all the Dobi. Naruto's eyes opened at 5 o'clock, according to his body clock. This is the time by which I am supposed to be on the training field, he thought as he got up to do his morning rituals. As he was brushing his teeth, he began thinking about Kakashi's behavior. Our sensei has the habit of being notoriously late unless ordered by the Hokage or AB-ranked mission and above. And he was not sorry yesterday after coming late over 3 hours, who's to say he won't do it again today? He thought as he wiped his mouth. Going to the kitchen, he leisurely began preparing 4 omelets. As he cracked the eggs, he scoffed, skip breakfast if we didn't want to throw up. He must be crazy if he thought that we would fight him on an empty stomach. He slid the omelets onto his plate and sat down on the dining table. A quick prayer later, he was gorging them down. From Tobirama's memories, he could deduce that it would be a teamwork exercise, though he would have a hard time trying to convince the other two about it. Finishing his meal, he walked over to the sink and washed his plate. Only Sakura would be stupid enough to skip the most important meal of the day. That girl is so thin a simple breeze would be enough to blow her away. He snickered. He went to his room and took out the 2 seals he was working on, making 2 clones who sat down to work on them. The real Naruto took out his father's letter and unsealed the notes on his other jutsu, the Rasengan. The Rasengan was a spiraling sphere of pure chakra, a form of pure shape manipulation. Minato had made the jutsu after observing the tailed beast ball, the strongest attack of the Biju. It involved 3 steps: rotation, power and containment. The first step involved bursting a water balloon by rotating chakra in different directions. The second step involved bursting a rubber ball with pure power. The third step involved combining the first 2 steps. Making up his mind to get some water balloons and rubber balls from the shop, Naruto replaced the notes back and decided to get some training in. Flashing to the Senju Grove, he made more clones to work on chakra control and elemental manipulation, while he meditated. After a while, he returned home and noticed that only half an hour remained till 8 o'clock. He freshened up, dressed up and checked if he had all his supplies in his pouch and holster. Tying his hitai on his left arm, he nodded to himself and exited his apartment after ensuring his trap seals were in place. He walked at a comfortable pace to the training grounds, eating 2 bananas in a backpack holding his lunch. Reaching the training grounds, he had to hold his laugh at what he saw. Both his teammates were there, probably from 5 o'clock, and were looking miserable. Well, as miserable as Sasuke could look. Sakura was sitting on the ground, probably regretting not eating breakfast. As soon as she saw him, her face twisted into anger and she got up, yelling, "Naruto, you're late." Naruto looked around, and sure enough, Kakashi wasn't here. Turning back to Sakura, he shrugged, "I don't know how I can be late if Sensei isn't even here, Sakura." Sakura opened her mouth to yell more, but couldn't find any words to refute his statement. Her temper got the better of her and she moved to hit him, but Naruto decided to teach her a lesson and caught her fist easily, his cold eyes freezing her in place. "I suggest you stop doing that. Otherwise, I'll do more than just catch your fist next time." His voice was a whisper, but it was cold as ice, letting her know he was dead serious. Sakura nodded shakily, making Naruto let go of her fist. Sighing in relief, Naruto walked up to the posts and set his backpack on top of one of them. He then went over to one of the trees, sitting against it as he pulled out some leaves. Balancing them on his forehead and forearms with chakra, he took out his book on sealing and began reading it while spreading his senses, picking up Sasuke's and Sakura's signatures close to him. After a while he felt Kakashi's signature close by, a few meters away from them. He was curious as to why he stopped his approach, but decided against confronting him. He continued spreading and enhancing his senses, trying to make it second nature to him. He opened his eyes a few minutes later, just in time for a poof of smoke to appear near the training logs, and Kakashi appeared within. "Good morning everyone." Sakura pointed accusingly at him, "You're late." Kakashi's eye curved up in a sort of smile, "Sorry, a black cat crossed my path and I had to take the long way around." "Liar," Sakura shouted. Naruto shook his head, she let him rile her up even before the test started. But she has a point. That was a terrible excuse. The silence became awkward and Kakashi coughed to break it. "Well, let's begin." He placed his backpack down and pulled out an alarm clock, which he set for 12 o'clock. He put it on one of the posts. He then took out 2 tied bells. "Your task is to take these bells from me before the alarm rings. Those who don't get the bells get no lunch. Not only that, I will tie you to the posts and eat lunch in front of you." Sakura's hungry, devastated face was exactly what he wanted. Sasuke tried to hide his hunger, but his stomach betrayed him. Only Naruto looked calm among them. "Naruto, why did you eat breakfast when I told you not to?" The other two glared at Naruto, who shrugged, "Actually, you only suggested not to, Sensei. You never said it as an order. And considering if I didn't eat I wouldn't have the energy to face you, so I decided to not follow your advice." Kakashi just hemmed. He is turning out to be interesting. Completely different from what the academy reports say. Maybe he would figure out the purpose of this test as well. He wondered. "I suppose I did. Anyway, you only have to get 1 bell. Since there are only 2, one of you will be tied to the stump. The one who doesn't get a bell fails and goes to the academy," he said, smirking at the horror on their faces. Well, 2 of the faces. As usual, Naruto looked calm, deciding to think more on it after escaping Kakashi's scrutiny. "Come at me with the intent to kill. If you don't, you will fail. Any questions?" Sakura spoke up, a confused expression on her face. "But Sensei, what if you get hurt?" Naruto snorted at that. Kakashi was a freaking jonin. They would be hard-pressed just to harm a hair on him. Kakashi chuckled. "Trust me, I'm good enough to avoid getting hurt." He looked at them. "Now then, ready, begin." The 3 of them jumped out of sight. Well, at least they know how to hide. A shinobi should be able to hide from his enemies. Now to wait for one of them to attack, Kakashi thought. Making a shadow clone to observe his sensei, Naruto went deeper into the forest to think. He frowned. This whole thing is about teamwork. After all, Tobirama sensei used the same test on Gigi and the elders. But those 2 will never work with me. Maybe I can convince them, after I get beat up from sensei. What is he up to? He's just standing there reading Ika Ika, Prime. Naruto blushed a bit, remembering when Anko had once tied him to a chair and read out parts of the book that were explicit. It didn't help that Kurama was sniggering the entire time as well. Prepare to engage. I'm on my way. Roger that, Prime. Naruto made his way towards his clone, who reduced the level of his resistance seals from 15 to 8 and flash-stepped from his spot, leaving the original to hide himself. Kakashi looked up in surprise as Naruto seemed to shimmer before him, landing in a crouch. What was that? He appeared really fast. His speed was too high for a genin. Rather stupid of you to come at me head-on, isn't it? I don't see what's so stupid about testing your opponent. Naruto replied, his eyes narrowed. Kakashi had to hold back the memories from seeing those eyes. So much like Sensei. Besides, something's off about this test. Kakashi raised an eyebrow, masking his surprise and interest. Oh. I've never heard of a 3-man squad before. Naruto said. A squad always has 3 genin and a jonin sensei. Could he have figured it out? Kakashi wondered but shook his head. No, he knows something is suspicious, but not what. Well, aren't you full of surprises? Kakashi said. However, it's going to help you get a bell. I guess you're right. Naruto shrugged. So, can I have a bell? Kakashi blinked a bit, while inside Naruto's mind, Kurama didn't know whether to laugh or to facepalm. No, you can't, but good try though. I've never had someone use that approach before. Well, it was worth a shot, Naruto said, before rushing Kakashi. The one-eyed Jonin was almost caught off guard when Naruto disappeared, reappearing in front of him, leg extended in a kick. That was easily low Jonin level speed. And how the hell does he move that fast? He frantically thought as he blocked the kick. He winced. He hits hard as well. Kakashi was forced to put away his book as his Naruto's movements were too fast. But Kakashi wasn't an elite Jonin for nothing. He began countering Naruto's attacks, mentally applauding his fighting style. His movements are fast, not giving the opposition time to think. The strength in his attacks might even reach mid to high Chunin level. Not many openings to exploit too. His attacks are quite unorthodox. Very interesting style, like he almost seems to know where the attacks are coming from. He applauded mentally as he ducked and blocked a 3 roundhouse kick combo that he knew wasn't part of a style he knew, and he knew a lot of them. You're good, kid, but not good enough. He grunted as he used the momentum of the spin kick coming towards his face. He caught Naruto by the ankle and threw him towards the nearby pond, only to be surprised that the Naruto in front of him threw a couple shuriken and disappeared in a poof of smoke. Was that a Kage Bunshin? He thought as he sensed movement behind him, just in time to dodge a few shuriken coming towards his back. He was even more surprised when he found 6 Narutos facing him, grinning and charging. Kakashi was about to move when he felt himself grabbed by a full Nelson. Turning his head, he saw another Naruto grinning at him. The other Narutos jumped towards him with fists cocked back. Smack! Naruto's eyes widened when he ended up punching a clone of himself, which disappeared in smoke along with the others. Once the smoke cleared, he saw that Kakashi was gone. His danger sense flared as he heard a voice, "You shouldn't let your opponent get behind you." Kakashi got behind him, his hands in a tiger sign, Konoha Hiden Taijutsu Ogi, Senin Garashi. Konoha Hidden Taijutsu style. 1000 years of death. He shoved his chakra-enhanced fingers up Naruto's butt, only for Naruto to explode, forcing Kakashi to jump away to avoid the blast, though he still got singed. He knows the Bunshin Daibakua. Kakashi thought in surprise. Was I fighting that the entire time, or did he use Kawarimi to replace himself? Looking around, he saw that Naruto was not in the clearing. He's a lot better than I expected. He shrugged. Well, whatever. I still have 2 more genin to test, and even with this surprise, I doubt they'll understand the true meaning of this test. Sasuke and Sakura were shell-shocked. They were not expecting Naruto's taijutsu to be this good. He was matching their sensei strike for strike, even adding his own attacks. His form of movement was also noticed by the duo, inducing jaw-dropping shock. Sasuke was seething. The speed of Naruto's movements was something not even he could match. What were those techniques? Solid clones, and even exploding clones. Where did the Dobi learn all this? I should be the one with those jutsu, not him. He raged mentally. Pissed. Sasuke. The raven-haired genin stiffened as he turned around and saw Naruto crouched behind him. How did he get behind me? I didn't even sense him. What do you want, Dobi? Sasuke hissed, still feeling jealous of the blonde's abilities. Naruto frowned at his teammate's attitude but shrugged it off. Listen, don't you think something's funny with this test? What do you mean? Asked Sasuke, frowning as anger and jealousy gave way to curiosity. I mean, 3 genin going after a jonin. Naruto said as if it was obvious. A jonin is an elite ninja. There is no way a genin can ever hope to defeat a ninja of that caliber. I think the 3 of us should work together. Sasuke's eyes widened at the suggestion. Work together? With Naruto and that fangirl? He scoffed. I don't need your help, loser. I can do this on my own. Naruto's eyes narrowed. Now listen here, Emo. This isn't some average jonin we're facing. That man is Kakashi Hatake, an A-rank ninja who is said to have copied 1,000 jutsu. There is no way you, I or any one genin can defeat him. Hell, there's no way even 3 genin together can defeat him. But if we work together then we at least have a shot at getting those bells. Could the Dobi be right? Sasuke asked himself, frowning a bit as he wondered if Naruto might actually be onto something. If our sensei really is that strong then, he shook his head, what was he thinking? He was an Uchiha, an elite ninja. He could get the bells on his own. I don't need your help. Sasuke stood up and glared at his teammate. I can do this on my own. Naruto clenched his teeth as he watched his teammate leave. Damn it, why is he so set on doing this by himself? I know he saw my fight. Surely he can't think he has any chance of winning. Damn Uchihas and their superiority complex. Shaking his head, Naruto stood up, made a shadow clone that left in search of his other teammate and tailed behind Sasuke, masking his presence. Truthfully, he did not have much hope that she would be willing to work with him without Sasuke, but he wanted to at least try and get her to cooperate. Sakura stared in shock as the fight between Naruto and Kakashi finished. Naruto was never that good at the academy. When did he learn to fight like that? He was the dead last. Then her fangirlism took over. If Naruto was that good, then Sasuke-kun will easily get a bell. And maybe if I help him get a bell, I will gain his notice. With her delusions set in place, Sakura stood up and walked carefully through the forest, stopping when she heard a twig snap. She looked around and froze when she saw Kakashi standing a little ways away, reading his book. I don't think he saw me. Sakura thought to herself. She was about to continue when a voice spoke up behind her. Pissed, Sakura. Turning around she saw Kakashi looking at her. Then he disappeared in a swirl of flower petals and Sakura saw black. She woke up a few seconds later and sat up. Huh, where am I? Sakura's eyes widened as she remembered the last thing she saw was Kakashi, and she began to look around frantically. What happened? Where's Kakashi-sensei? Sakura. Sakura turned around at the familiar voice. Sasuke-kun. She stopped and her eyes widened as she saw Sasuke, beaten, bleeding with his left arm missing, his leg bent at an awkward angle as he leaned against a tree. Run, Sakura, he said in a strained voice and she saw that he was missing an eye. Kun. Sakura's eyes widened and she did the only thing she could. Kya, she yelled, before her eyes rolled up in the back of her head and she fainted. Kya. Sasuke's head turned to the sound of the scream. That was Sakura, he thought to himself before shrugging. She had probably been stupid enough to get caught by their sensei. He was not surprised by this turn of event. The girl was nothing but a useless fangirl. The genin to be turned his head when he saw Kakashi, leaning against a tree with his arms crossed. Maybe I went a little too far, Kakashi said, though she was said to be the best at genjutsu. He mumbled at the end. Sasuke scoffed. I'm not like those two. Kakashi I smiled. Say that after you get a bell, Sasuke. Sasuke smirked as he threw several kunai at Kakashi, who dodged to the left. Sasuke waited a moment, expecting the trap he had set to go off. He ended up frowning when nothing seemed to happen. If you were expecting that wire trap to get me, you're going to be disappointed. Kakashi said, After having Naruto surprise him with his abilities, he had decided to keep his guard up with the others. Perhaps that was why he had used a genjutsu of a little higher quality than normal on Sakura. He shrugged. It was still a D rank 1, so he could not be blamed if she was incapable of breaking it. Sasuke scowled as he rushed Kakashi, throwing a punch at the Jonin. Once again Kakashi decided not to let Sasuke do anything, grabbing the Genin's arms and then throwing him towards a tree. Sasuke twisted around and bounced off the tree, shooting back towards Kakashi as he went through several hand seals, snake ram monkey boar horse tiger. Kakashi's eye widened. Kaden. Gukaku no Jutsu. Fire style. Great fireball jutsu. Sasuke ed in a deep breath and blew out a fairly large fireball, sending it crashing into Kakashi. Landing on his feet, he frowned as the fireball dissipated and Kakashi was nowhere to be seen. That should have at least left some ashes, so where is he? To the left, no. To the right, no. Above, Sasuke looked up to see that Kakashi was not there. Below, a voice spoke up from under Sasuke's feet. A pair of hands shot out of the ground and grabbed Sasuke's feet before pulling him down, burying him up to the head. Sasuke looked up to see Kakashi crouched down next to him with an eye smile. "I'll admit, you're not bad. You may stand out, but you know what they say." He was interrupted when a smoke bomb exploded just in front of him. Only his experience letting him narrowly dodge it. Once the smoke cleared he saw the hole where Sasuke had been, only to see a puff of smoke. "Not bad, Naruto. You figured the test out, seeing that you saved a teammate. But how are you going to convince the other two?" Kakashi thought as he went back to the clearing. "Are you now willing to listen?" Naruto asked a fuming Sasuke. He had watched the fight between Kakashi and Sasuke, successfully copying the Doden Jutsu Kakashi had used. He had then thrown a smoke bomb and made a clone that substituted with Sasuke, bringing him to his location. "I said I didn't need your help, Dobi," Sasuke snarled. "The whole damn test is about teamwork, Sasuke. I don't like you any more than you like me and we both aren't fans of Sakura, and that's putting it mildly. We need to put our differences aside and show Kakashi-sensei that we can work together if the situation requires it. The whole getting a bell shtick is setting us up against each other. Kakashi is an A-rank ninja, a former Anbu captain. You really think we have a chance against him alone?" Sasuke hated to admit it, but Naruto was right. He couldn't get the bell even after trying. He would have to push his pride aside for now. "Fine." Sasuke ground out reluctantly. "Do you have a plan? You order Sakura to distract him with weapons, then attack him with your fire jutsu. I'll distract him with taijutsu and also help increase the strength of your fire jutsu. Sakura is about 500 meters away at 245 degrees. Naruto said, relieved that Sasuke had finally seen sense. Sasuke wanted to ask how he knew all this, but shook his head. He would find out later. "Be ready in 5, he said and went to order Sakura to do her part, while Naruto made a clone and prepared to engage their sensei. Kakashi was standing in the middle of the clearing reading his book. It had been a whole 15 minutes since Sasuke had been rescued and he sensed no movement whatsoever. It was then that he noticed feathers falling and he began to feel a bit sleepy. Genjutsu. But who? He thought as he flared his chakra to dispel it, raising his arm to block a kick, wincing at how hard it was. The attacker used his raised arm to flip back and reveal himself as his, apparently, dead last student. "So, back for round 2. Hopefully you won't as much as last time." Naruto kept his irritation in check, which Kakashi approved mentally. "Won't know unless I try," Naruto replied, settling into a stance. "That stance. That's Minato-sensei's." Kakashi was interrupted as Naruto rushed towards him, narrowly dodging a punch. The two then began engaging in taijutsu. Naruto tried to confuse Kakashi with his speed, but the experienced Jonin blocked all attempts to land hits. "My sensei used the same style of taijutsu, Naruto. It won't work against me." Naruto grinned, keeping on the offensive. He added chakra to his hands and aimed for a grazing hit on Kakashi's lower thigh, damaging a muscle slightly. Kakashi then jumped back. "I see. Not completely your father's style then. You included elements of your own." Naruto followed Kakashi, trying to keep on the offensive. But Kakashi proved his experience by reversing the situation. Naruto was keeping on the defensive when he finally got the message from his clone. He dodged a kick from Kakashi and jumped back to hide again, waiting for the signal. Then several kunai were thrown from the bushes. Not very fast, but they were on target. Kakashi deflected them without problems. Then Sasuke shot his fireball and a Naruto clone strengthened it with a wind jutsu. He knows wind manipulation, thought Kakashi as he substituted himself with a log. However, the real Naruto, knowing which log he would use to substitute, threw a flurry of shuriken at that position, forcing Kakashi to block them all. Naruto and Sasuke engaged Kakashi in a bout of taijutsu, Kakashi mentally approving their teamwork. He wouldn't admit it, but he was starting to enjoy the fight. Sasuke noticed that they were closer to getting the bells. "Sakura, get the bells. You have 2.5 minutes. Naruto shouted. Sakura closed in on their position and tried to grab the bells only to be stopped by a weakened Kakashi. Using this time Naruto tried putting a subtle Kokoni Erizu no Jutsu, false surroundings technique, on him. Kakashi felt the invading chakra and dispelled it, however it was too late as Naruto snagged the bells just as the alarm rang. "Phew, we did it," said Naruto holding up the bells. They passed the test with flying colors. Their teamwork still has much left to be desired but it was good for a start. However, good job, you have the bells, Naruto. But who will you give the second bell? Without any hesitation, Naruto threw the bells to Sasuke and Sakura, much to their shock. You do realize that if you do that, you'll have to go back to the academy. Kakashi said. He has figured it out. There's no other explanation, he thought to himself. I don't mind doing another year in the academy, he said with a shrug. No, Sasuke said, causing everyone to look at him. You came up with the plan and you got the bells. Therefore you must pass, and my pride as an Uchiha will not let me accept this when I didn't actually get one myself. I refuse to accept charity from the Dobi, he thought seething mentally. No, I think you both should pass since you both did most of the work, said Sakura, looking depressed as she threw her bell to Sasuke. I didn't do much, I can't accept it, even if I can't be with Sasuke-kun. As that's so, Kakashi interjected. Well then, you all pass. Kakashi finished with an eye smile. Sasuke and Sakura were shocked. What? Shrieked Sakura, making the other three wince. Recovering first, Naruto shot a wary look at Kakashi. Is that it? Eye smile disappearing, Kakashi said in a serious tone. Yeah, I wanted to be sure you three would act as one. My best friend always used to say, those who break the rules are called trash, but those who abandon their comrades are even worse than trash. I wanted you all to accept each other as comrades. This is actually the first group I have passed. The previous ones were blockheads who couldn't get it. He gave them an eye smile and thumbs up. Team 7 will start its missions from tomorrow. Chapter text. Team 7 reporting for AD rank mission, Hokage-sama. The aged Hokage looked up, seeing Team 7 in front of him. Kakashi as usual was keeping his face buried in his porn. He then looked at the genin in front of him. Sakura looked irritable, Sasuke looked composed, though the twitching eyebrows said otherwise. Naruto looked indifferent. Ah yes, welcome Team 7, let's see what we have here. Walking the Inuzuka dogs, painting a fence, catching Tora. We'll take the mission, catching Tora, Hokage-sama. Kakashi said with an eye smile, which widened hearing the groan of three genin. Ah, music to his ears. Very well, Team 7, your mission is to capture Tora the cat for Madame Shimji. Dismissed, the Hokage said with a barely hidden smirk. It had been 2 months since they had become genin. D-rank missions were, in the humble opinion of all genin, horrible. One couldn't say why the senior shinobi classified these so-called chores as missions, so they concluded that it was because they wanted the genin to suffer what they had gone through before. The only one who didn't really complain was Naruto, since it brought in the money. He had even asked the Hokage and Kakashi-sensei if he could do extra missions solo, seeing that since he was an orphan, he didn't have clan money to fall back on, yet, and the orphan's fund stopped the moment he became a genin. Since then, Naruto would do 3 extra missions a day with the help of his shadow clones. Due to his constant presence in the mission office, the ninja there slowly but surely warmed up to him. After all, no genin would willingly take on extra D ranks, and it also helped reduce the load and bring in the income for the village. Only he, and by extension Kurama, knew the real purpose of some of the missions. He had chosen 5 missions in such a way that it would help in training all 5 elements. Helping at a power plant for his lightning, working the oven at a bakery, which just so happened to be a wood-burning oven for his fire jutsu, picking up trash in the river for his water jutsu, helping repair the windmills for his wind jutsu, and clearing a field of rocks for his earth jutsu. However, it was while helping out at a farm during one of his missions that Naruto accidentally stumbled into one of the abandoned bases of the snake Sannin and traitor, Orochimaru. Needless to say, Naruto had managed to find some notes on poisons and medical scrolls. The Hokage had labeled it an S-rank mission after going through the report, and had to talk to Naruto about his experience. His teammates were confused as hell and refused to believe that whatever they were doing were missions. Speaking of which, Sasuke had started asking questions about how Naruto knew wind ninjutsu, and about his taijutsu style. He even had the nerve to demand from him all the jutsu he knew. Naruto had told him in no uncertain terms that unless Sasuke was willing to share jutsu from his own repertoire, Naruto had no intention of telling him what he wanted to know. Of course, Sasuke refused to share any jutsu of his, believing they were Uchiha clan jutsu and as such, no one besides him could know. Naruto had scoffed at that, but Kurama had straight burst into laughter. The great beast had told him he knew at least 20 people who could perform the great fireball, only 2 of which were Uchiha. Naruto had smartly countered that argument by towing the line that was Sasuke Uchiha's pride. He had condescendingly asked if the great Uchiha library was not enough for him. Sasuke did not want to admit that he could not access it without his Sharingan, and he honestly believed all jutsu available outside were weak and so, did not bother to learn them. He stopped bugging Naruto after that, much to the blonde's relief. However, Sakura had started bugging him on Sasuke's behalf to get him to hand over the jutsus, saying that a loser like him does not deserve them. Naruto was quick in shutting her up, turning her own argument against her. He had smartly questioned her if she was implying he was weak. Sakura, unaware of what she was putting her foot into, scoffed and replied that she was not implying, she knew he was weak. After that, everything went smooth like butter. Naruto replied that if he was weak, then by extension, the jutsu he used were also weak. And Sasuke wouldn't love Sakura if she handed him weak jutsus, right? Sakura had adopted a worried frown at his question and seemed to come to the conclusion that he was right. She did not once question why Naruto accepted himself as weak, which was opposite of what he had displayed in the bell test. Regardless, after mocking him some more, she went back to Sasuke, who ignored her as usual. Kakashi-sensei was also on to him, but was a lot more cautious in his approach. He subtly framed his statements such that Naruto would have difficulty in avoiding the correct answer. But Naruto, having trained under the Nadaime for 6 years, had learned the art of figuring out how to avoid someone fishing for information no matter how subtle. He wisely told Kakashi-sensei that he figured that he had a lot of chakra and decided to learn to control it, thus using the library to increase his knowledge. Kakashi knew Naruto was holding back, but didn't call him out on it. Speaking of training, he had begun working on the Rasengan on the day of the test. It had taken 20 days to learn the jutsu, despite his excellent chakra control. It then took another week to master the Rasengan in both hands. He wanted to be able to create the Rasengan in an instant, with no delays. Remembering his father's letter saying that the Rasengan was incomplete, he had begun trying to add elemental chakra into the Rasengan, with less than stellar results. It did not stop him from trying to modify the Rasengan though, trying to make it a long-range attack as well as a close-range one. It was even good practice for his medical ninjutsu, as he would burn his hands on more than one occasion. He even learned a jutsu for his elements and had started working on another sub-element. He had even got halfway through reading the copy of the Forbidden Scroll he had made using Tobirama's memories. One of the jutsu he found was a B rank wind jutsu called K's Sokudo Chikara, Wind Speed Force. This form of wind manipulation accelerated one's velocity while running, allowing the user to move as fast as the wind. The jutsu also allowed the user to execute a mighty body crash against a target with no harm to the user. However, the jutsu required massive stamina, wind chakra nature, and physical endurance since the jutsu would take a toll on the body after prolonged usage. His weekends now involved sparring with Anko, Tenten, Hinata, Yugao and even Gigi. Hiruzen had started training himself after getting the Fuin beads from Naruto. The Anbu now dreaded weekends as they would be subject to being handled like ragdolls by their esteemed leader during spars. To add to their shame, their prankster nemesis for some unknown reason was able to give their esteemed leader a workout. This triggered a wave of increased training in the Anbu facilities, something the commander took note of, and making a mental note to ask Hiruzen to induct Naruto Uzumaki into Anbu. Anko would spar with him and play extreme death tag with him in the Forest of Death, whenever she didn't have missions. The Fuin beads he had given her had inspired her to start training as well. While she was proud of her student, surrogate little brother, Naruto needed to know that the little brother cannot beat the big sister. Thus she had begun training and sparring with her friends Kurenai and Yugao, in order to stay ahead in skill, and had even taken up learning kenjutsu, much to the latter's surprise. Might Guy had heard of her increased training and had offered his assistance when not on missions, shouting about her flames of youth being reignited. After coming to know that Naruto had even started sparring with Yugao, the two kunoichi would often fight against the genin in a 2-against-1 taijutsu and kenjutsu match, inadvertently increasing the skill and experience of all three involved. He and Tenten would spar with weapons, and he helped her with creating a combat fuinjutsu style due to their shared love for the art. He helped Hinata polish her juken and they had even made progress in adding the water element to it. They had even started Hinata on lightning manipulation. She was done with the first step, but she was more than happy with her progress, and spending time with Naruto-kun was always a plus in her book. Hanabi, Hinata's sister, had once joined them in their training session, wanting to see just what exactly her sister saw in the boy most of her clan bar Hinata and her father pegged as a no-good troublemaker. Sure enough, she was awed at Naruto's knowledge and even begged the two to help train her as well. Naruto, despite being a master of the puppy eyes jutsu, ended up succumbing to the combined attack from Hinata's and Hanabi's puppy eyes, thus training them both. Naruto had even began training Konohamaru and his friends, Udon and Moegi. Udon was a dopey-looking boy with brown hair and glasses and had a drop of snot always hanging from his nose. Moegi was a short, orange-haired girl with her hair done in pigtails that stood up, with dark brown eyes. Naruto focused mostly on their physical conditioning and chakra control, occasionally focusing on taijutsu, and separately training Konohamaru in bojutsu, Moegi in kenjutsu and Udon in fuinjutsu and trap making. Needless to say, the three young academy students enjoyed their training, though they had to promise Naruto that they wouldn't skip out the academy whenever they wanted to. He had improved in his medical ninjutsu as well. His constant training to perfect his chakra control and his mastery over the water element played a huge role in his training. His clones would shadow Arata while he would conduct rounds and teach him. He had even treated some patients and had assisted some of the staff. However, he had to remain in a henge, at least until the Chunin exams so as not to blow his cover. But enough of that. Right now, Team 7 was on a mission. A mission Naruto had absolutely no problem in failing. The mission to capture Tora, the daimyo's feudal lord wife's cat. It was a mission that always managed to give Naruto goosebumps. He could swear on his ramen that the old man was a sadist. He could see the joy at their pain in his eyes every time the mission to capture the blasted cat was handed out. They had caught the cat at least 7 times. This would be the 8th. He was ready to tear his hair out. This is Kakashi. Everyone copy. Sakura here, copy. Sasuke here, copy. Naruto here, copy. Does everyone have eyes on target? Naruto responded, I have clear eyes on target. Just waiting for the go. Alright, go. A flash step later and Naruto had Tora secured in his arms. She was thrashing around, but he could care less. Got him, Kakashi-sensei. Turning to the cat, he pressed 2 fingers onto the cat's forehead and removed them, revealing the kanji for sleep. Tora fell asleep instantly. His teammates landed beside him, irritated expressions on their faces which Kakashi expertly ignored and asked Naruto through radio, "Does it have the red ribbon on the right ear?" Surprisingly, it was Sakura who answered, "Yes, red ribbon is there." "Can we go now?" Naruto couldn't fault her for being so infuriated. He looked over to Sasuke and saw him return to his normal brooding expression, but his clenched fists told otherwise. Kakashi landed beside his team, eyes scrunched up in that annoying smile of his. "Well done Team 7, capturing Tora is a success." Naruto quietly mumbled, again. By now, he was beginning to get tired of the D ranks. He wanted to do some real missions. After they returned to the mission hall, Kakashi asked for another mission, much to his team's protests. The Sandaime scrolled through the missions. Let's see. There is a fence that needs painting, weeding to be done, dogs to be walked. "Actually Hokage-sama," said Kakashi, getting the aged leader's attention. "I think my team is ready to take C-rank missions." Naruto and Sasuke perked up. They didn't expect their sensei to say that. "Do you now?" asked the Hokage. He had been waiting for one of the genin to blow up and ask for a real mission, in their words. In his mind, either Naruto or Sasuke would be the ones to burst first. Hiba from Team 8 being a close second. However, Naruto had been calm for the past month, doing the XSD ranks on his own, not counting the upgraded S rank. He believed Naruto to be more than ready, considering who had trained him and what he had done in the last 2 years, though he wouldn't admit it. Kakashi was having the same thoughts. In 2 months, Naruto, Sasuke and Sakura's teamwork had considerably improved, but at a slow rate. One development worth mentioning was that Sasuke now held a one-sided rivalry with Naruto. With Naruto starting to hide less of his abilities, it became even more clear that he had Sasuke outmatched in ninjutsu because of his wider repertoire of jutsus, not to mention his mastery over the Kage Bunshin, requiring half or no hand seals to create one. He had also shown that he could use 2 elements and had monstrous chakra reserves due to being a Jinchuriki and an Uzumaki, easily dwarfing Sasuke's reserves. Fuinjutsu already gave Naruto an edge that Kakashi knew Sasuke would not be able to match, given that he was the inventor of the pad, the Fuinjutsu device that helped send messages without delay, leading to a rise in mission successes, not to mention his surprising skill in Genjutsu. The Jonin knew that Naruto was hiding a lot more, but didn't call him out on it. He had talked to the Hokage after the Bell test, finding out that Naruto had done quite a lot of self-study in secret with only the Hokage knowing. Kakashi was awed by the mass deception Naruto had pulled on everyone in the village, not that he could blame him, seeing how he was treated by the villagers in his childhood. He didn't give the boys a chance to spar, seeing that Sasuke's inferiority complex wouldn't allow him to accept anyone, especially Naruto, as stronger than him, leading to something serious. He wasn't dumb enough to take that chance. Anyway, Naruto had unintentionally become Sasuke's reason to get stronger. Kakashi reasoned that Sasuke held his brother, Itachi, in a much higher position than Naruto and wanted to become stronger than Naruto, so he could finally kill him. Another positive development was that Sasuke didn't completely alienate himself from his teammates. He held a strange companionship with Naruto, deeming the boy tolerable. Maybe it was because Naruto had metaphorically extended a hand of friendship towards the lone Uchiha by displaying a bit of what he was capable of, and Sasuke respected those who had power. When it came to missions, they had a healthy number of completed missions among themselves, having done the required number of D ranks to qualify for a C rank mission. Naruto only added on by doing 3 times that amount. Taking all this into consideration, Kakashi nodded. "Hi, they are." All 3 genin had different reactions to this. Sakura sighed in relief, not wanting to do D ranks anymore. Naruto pumped his fist, muttering, "Yes. Finally." Even Sasuke smirked a bit. He felt doing D ranks held him back from getting stronger. Maybe getting some real-world experience like encountering bandits and foreign shinobi would make him stronger, he mused. Hiruzen nodded and browsed through the pile in front of him. "Let's see. Found it. Simple escort and protection mission. To Wave Country. Your client is a bridge builder named Tazuna who wants you to protect him until he finishes building his bridge in Wave Kakashi took the scroll. Mission accepted, Hokage-sama. Hiruzen turned to Iruka. Send Tazuna inside. Iruka nodded and went out of the room, returning 2 minutes later with an old man wearing a straw hat and holding a bottle which obviously contained alcohol. Naruto wrinkled his nose. The odor was not pleasant at all. Tazuna looked at the team of genin and slurred. These are the brats that are supposed to protect me. I paid for real ninja protection. Funny how you can say that, considering you didn't even notice me move. A voice came from behind him. Tazuna whipped around with wide eyes, but couldn't spot the owner of the voice. Over here, you drunkard, the same voice drawled, making the man whip around again, eyes locking onto a mop of blonde hair. Intense blue eyes stared back at him, silently mocking him for his earlier statement. Kakashi intervened before Naruto could scare Tazuna even more. Naruto, please don't scare the client, he reprimanded in his usual lazy voice, which didn't sound like a reprimand at all. You're no fun at all, Kakashi-sensei. Troublesome. Naruto sighed despondently. Shikamaru was painting a fence lazily with his team when he sneezed. Troublesome. Why do I feel like I want to sue Naruto for copyright infringement? He shrugged and continued painting. Thinking about it was too troublesome. Ignoring the looks the senior shinobi were giving him, Naruto walked back to his place beside Sasuke. Kakashi coughed into his fist and assured the builder, you have nothing to be afraid of, Tazuna-san. My genin are among some of the best upcoming ninja of this village. We can easily take care of a few bandits. Instead of making the man relax, Tazuna tensed up at the word, bandits. Naruto narrowed his eyes a bit at that. Protection from a jonin would be enough to make anyone else relax, so Tazuna tensing up didn't make sense. He's hiding, or more probably withholding some information. Agreed. Be on your guard, Naruto. Maybe you could gather some information. Kurama replied. Will do, Kurama. Naruto replied before turning to Kakashi, excitement on his face. When are we leaving, Kakashi-sensei? He eagerly asked. We leave tomorrow morning at 7, he answered. He then lazily waved them away. That's all for today. Take full rest for tomorrow. He vanished in a shunshin, with Sasuke, Sakura and Tazuna leaving through the door. Naruto turned to the Hokage, his expression serious. Tazuna-san's hiding something. You noticed it too. Impressive. Protection from a jonin usually reassures someone. Tensing up at the mention of bandits doesn't make sense. Agreed. Unfortunately, I do not have much of an idea as to what is happening in Wave. Perhaps I can trust you to gather information and relay it back. Hiruzen asked seriously. Naruto nodded. Hi, Hokage-sama. He left after that. Iruka turned to the Hokage with a worried look. Was it wise to trust Naruto with information gathering, Hokage-sama? He's only fresh out of the academy. Hiruzen smiled. That may be so, but being able to pull those pranks and evade Anbu had to be good enough practice for evasion and infiltration. Thanks to that, we were able to get an idea of the loopholes in security. I trust you won't relay that part to anyone, Iruka. He leveled a serious glare to the Chunin. Said Chunin gulped and nodded. Hi, Hokage-sama. Inwardly he thought, so that's what the pranks were. Disguised as a ploy for attention, he was practicing his stealth and infiltration and looking for loopholes in security. Ingenious. Naruto actually has the makings of a skilled infiltration specialist. Naruto stood in the Nadime's library. He figured that this C rank might take 2 to 3 weeks, so he might as well collect a couple of scrolls to learn in the meantime. Browsing the shelves he picked up 3 scrolls, a Doden, Suiden and Fuden Jutsu. Doden. Ganbon Q, Earth Style. Bedrock Coffin was a B rank supplementary jutsu. This technique allowed you to control multiple sections of rock and move them around their opponent. The user then forms 2 gigantic sections that crush the opponent. It contained only 1 seal, rat. Suiden. Suidana, Water Style. Water Severing Wave was a powerful A-rank jutsu. After infusing chakra in your stomach and then converting it into water, the user spit the water out in highly pressurized, razor-sharp jets of water, sharp enough to cleanly cut through rock and barks of thick trees if used perfectly. Fuden. Kei's Gyorai no Jutsu, Wind Style. Wind Torpedo Technique was a powerful A-rank jutsu created by Tobirama himself, keeping explosive tags in mind. Wow, Sensei really was obsessed with explosives. He thought as he remembered his training with Tobirama while reading how to perform the jutsu. After infusing wind chakra in your lungs, it is expelled as a highly explosive ball of wind, near invisible. Upon contact, it will explode with the force of 2 standard explosive tags. It required the hand seal's ox horse snake. Should be enough to last this mission, he mused as he made a clone and walked to the Senju Grove. He had training to do as well as a shift in the hospital, along with some urgent business. Naruto reached the Senju Grove. Making clones to work on the jutsu he collected, he then sank into the ground, vanishing from sight. He appeared in what looked to be a large room divided into 4 parts. One part looked like a meeting room of sorts, with a large desk and chairs along with some seals to help with the lighting and ventilation. The second room was large, and had clones who were working on various jutsu, mainly jutsu creation, fuinjutsu, taijutsu and kenjutsu katas. The third room functioned as a weapons storeroom and the fourth doubled as a library containing various documents. He had created this room before leaving for his stint as a bounty hunter, in order to not draw attention to his jutsu creation and training. It was a fallback option in case his cover was blown. Tobirama had approved the creation of the room. Naruto had even put up seals to avoid detection from chakra spikes and had made the room resistant to Earth users except himself, knowing of Danzo and his root faction and their habit of meddling in others' business. No one but he, Tobirama and more recently, Hiruzen and Jiraiya knew about it. Walking to the meeting room, he saw clones of himself as well as 4 other people, who were really his clones under henge, waiting for him. Not wanting to delay any longer, he went and sat at the head of the table. Thank you all for coming. As you know, I have a mission tomorrow to Wave Country. However, our client is hiding something and is acting fishy, which means something is going on in Wave. For now, give your reports. A brunette man in his early 30s stood up. Everything is going well in the civilian sector. The apprentices at various shops are doing well and earning well. Even those who have been situated in other countries. It was a good move to put the spy network in the investigation of the various council members, by the way. Sooner or later those bastards will get what's coming to them after all they did to overprice us back when we were little. Naruto nodded. He had gotten the spy network he had set up within Konoha to look into the activities of the civilian and merchant council, thinking that something wasn't right within their ranks. The evidence had been damning and had been sent to the Hokage once it was completed. Good work. Keep doing what you have been doing. Next. A black-haired boy wearing all black covering everything except the hair and eyes, which were brown, stood up and said, "Spy ring continues to avoid suspicion. Clones enrolled in the shinobi academies of Suna, Iwa, Kumo and Kiri have just finished their first year. All have scored in the middle of the pack. The Chunin clone we inserted in Kiri's rebel forces report that the rebellion continues to grow in size. Mei Terumi will become Mizukage in the next 1 to 3 years. Jiraiya was spotted in Rice yesterday. Met with one of our own and will probably relay the information back to the Hokage soon. Our man in Odo was nearly caught trying to get to the plans for the invasion which will happen in the Chunin exams. Orochimaru plans on getting the aid of Suna, considering the cut in funding caused by the Wind Daimyo due to him redirecting missions to Konoha. His elite forces have the Cursed Seal of Heaven, similar to Anko Sensei. He also has spies over here in Konoha, the most prominent being Kabuto Yakushi, who is masquerading as a genin but as a medical ninja in the hospital, rumored to be on the level of Kakashi Hatake. Mizuki was only one of the few we caught. Is that so? Naruto asked. He then placed his chin between his thumb and index finger, deep in thought. Tell him to continue his work and see if there's any way to find the components of the cursed seal. The sooner we find it, the sooner we can find a counter and remove it from Anko Sensei. We could use the Fuin bracelet, but I'd rather have Jiraiya nearby as we examine the seal. I knew that Kabuto guy smelled funny in the hospital. Plus he was too polite for his own good. Anything else? Yes, actually, there's a group consisting of S-rank missing nin that has been on the rise. Currently they are collecting bounties and doing high-class secret missions, mainly for Iwa. Jiraiya once mentioned that Orochimaru was a part of this group and currently Itachi Uchiha is in it too. Other members are unknown as of now. We will keep reading the bingo book for updates. Since you're headed to Wave, it's best to warn you. Currently Wave is under the control of Gato. Ignoring the sharp intake of breath from the others, he continued, he's pretty much drained the country dry. He took over their shipping industry and cut them off the mainland. He managed to suppress the people by publicly executing the leader of their resistance in the most way. He's set up his base to the east of a fishing village close to the coast of Fire Country. His personal guards are thugs he hired. Mostly small fry for any ninja. We have infiltrated their ranks and trying to glean as much information as possible. He has around 500 from their main base and another 500 on call in a camp on the other side of the island. As of now, he has hired missing nin from Kiri, the most notable being the Demon Brothers and Zabuza Momochi, the demon of the hidden mist. So it's like the village in River Country all over again, Naruto said with a sigh, then blanched. The demon of the hidden mist. Blocking out Kurama's rant of, I'm the only demon here, damn it. He continued, this changes a lot of things. This is no longer a C rank, but an A rank. No wonder Tazuna was apprehensive. He's being threatened by Gato. We will have to see tomorrow. Anything else? Root is still continuing their off-the-book missions. Danzo is plotting ways to get you as a weapon still. We managed to nick an updated bingo book of his for further reference. Oh, and be careful of his right eye. I think he has a Sharingan underneath it from what the spy managed to sense. He even has Hashirama Senju cells implanted into his right arm. Kumo has still not demilitarized after the war. Iwa is still recovering and Suna is currently preparing for the invasion. Speaking of Suna, the Kage's daughter, Sabaku no Tamari, is pretty hot. And can wield a battle fan too. Naruto and the other clones' sweat dropped. Noted. Dispel. The spy clone dispelled. Naruto stood for a moment, going through the memories. He was puzzled about what he heard about Danzo but filed it away for future reference. Creating another copy of the spy clone, he slapped a durability seal onto it and gave some chakra storage seals. The meeting further continued with updates on training and other ventures. Once the meeting was adjourned, Naruto went back to his apartment. He had a lot to think about. He remembered encountering Gato back in River Country. It had been a few months into his bounty hunting gig that he stumbled upon the village for refreshments. However, seeing the state of the village, he knew he had to help out. The village had had a dam built by Gato, who had used it to reroute the water that came from the Mugen River, leaving the village dry and out of resources. It had looked like the people had given up hope, making Naruto want to save them. After beating up a couple of thugs who were harassing a little girl, Naruto had continued fighting the wave of thugs before finally encountering Crow, a rogue samurai who was under Gato's payroll. Naruto initially struggled due to his lack of experience, but after a long drawn-out fight, which also ended up blowing the dam, Naruto had managed to defeat Crow, who, unexpectedly, smiled and thanked him for a good fight before dying. While Gato had managed to escape, the village had managed to recover with Naruto's help, and had named the bridge formed out of the remains of the dam the Arashi Big Bridge, in honor of his alter ego. He smiled at the thought. He had managed to convince a woman named Hinari who lived near the village, that he could save it. She was skeptical at first, but after seeing what he was capable of, she had started to hope again. He remembered the last thing she had said to him. Flashback. Naruto, as Arashi, was on his way from saving the village in River Country. He passed by a house when a voice called out to him. You actually did it. He turned to see a woman with black hair and brown eyes, wearing a green kimono smiling at him. He rubbed the back of his head sheepishly. I did, didn't I? Told you so. That you did, she smiled. What will you do now? I'll still travel a little before going back home to Konoha. I still want to gather experience. But you're still young. Age is merely a number. Hinari sighed. Very well, but I have a favor to ask. What is it? If you ever meet a man named Kakashi Hatake, tell him I said, thank you. Naruto thought for a moment and then nodded. Will do. See you around. He turned and walked away. Hinari watched him go with a smile, which became wider when she looked at the new bridge formed. That boy would be going places. She knew it. Arashi. Flashback end. Naruto reached his apartment. Pushing the thoughts aside, he decided to work on a strategy before going to bed. He had a mission to accomplish. Naruto woke up at his usual time of 5 o'clock, refreshed and recovered from yesterday's training and shift at the hospital. Walking to the bathroom, he finished his morning rituals and almost put on his regular running clothes, before remembering that he had a C rank mission today. He shook his head and put on a lower and shoes. He opened the door to his balcony and breathed the fresh, cool morning air. He shivered once as the air hit his bare upper body, but soon adjusted to it. He flipped onto the roof and began a series of stretches to simply warm his body up. Wouldn't want to exert too much today before the mission, he thought as he stretched every part of his body. With that being the last thought, he emptied his mind and enjoyed the silence that the village experienced in the early mornings before it began the daily chaos. After half an hour, he decided that his body was sufficiently warmed up. He made a clone to make breakfast while he scanned the area, before he shunshined to the Senju Grove, deciding to meditate and do some nature manipulation exercises. Entering the cave and standing in the middle of the lagoon, he closed his eyes and crossed his arms, sending chakra through the water and forming a whirlpool. In his mind's eye he could see how the Nadaime had done this exercise, crossing his arms with a bored look on his face. Sosofu, even when you're not here, I can feel your presence. He kept at the exercise for another 10 minutes, deciding to make it harder by balancing kunai in each finger using chakra. Another 10 minutes were spent walking up and down the waterfall, alternating between his feet and hands. He decided to walk back to his apartment after that, practicing drawing water from the air around him, along with manipulating the earth and keeping his senses active while watching the sunrise. Kurama, in your ridiculously long life, have you ever taken time to breathe and admire the sunrise? What brought this on, brat? Kurama's voice was a bit laden with sleep, signifying that he was napping as usual. Naruto shrugged, just asking. Despite what people tend to think about me, I don't rampage all the time, you know. Even I take time to enjoy the simple joys of nature. He grumbled. Naruto lifted an eyebrow. Wow, people really don't understand you as well as they think they do. Kurama nodded mentally before shooing him away. Now go away. Let me sleep in peace. And concentrate on that water blob, damn it, he said, cutting off the link. Naruto shook his head. He must have a passionate hobby of sleeping which he adheres to like anything. He'd give the Naris a run for their money. He snickered, nearly losing concentration on his water manipulation. He reached back to his apartment, walking to his bathroom to freshen up. 10 minutes later, he was eating 4 scrambled eggs, all the while mentally compiling a list of what he should take with him. He created a shadow clone to clean up while he got ready. He dressed up as usual and sealed up whatever supplies he would need in a large sealing scroll which he bought from Higarashi's weapon shop. The folks there never upped the prices for him, and his good friend's family was the owner of the shop. He even sold some of his ideas on modified explosive tags and communication seals for discounts on purchases and a secrecy. After all, he would require those in the future. After double-checking everything, he made 2 clones and gave them enough chakra storage seals to last him a month. He had talked to Rata-sensei who agreed to him leaving a clone behind in case of any mission outside the village. His chakra storage seals had been a godsend among the shinobi forces that the Hokage had drawn up a contract to enable him selling them under a nom de plume until his name was cleared among the masses. One clone would work in the hospital while the other clone would continue training and reading in secret. He picked up his scroll, slung it around him and walked out of his apartment. He activated the trap seals he had designed himself. With that, he flashed to the Hiraishin seal on top of the gates of Konoha, keeping in mind what he had heard about Wave and looking forward to the mission. Chapter text. Kakashi, Sakura and Sasuke each had different thoughts concerning this mission. Kakashi didn't lose sleep over it, figuring this would be a normal C-rank mission. Despite what he told the Hokage, he didn't think his team was ready for a C rank. He wanted to get his team of genin exposed to what may be the hardships of shinobi life. And while Naruto had maintained a professional attitude towards his teammates, this would be the first time their coordination was tested. Naruto was clearly skilled. His taijutsu was between high chunin to low jonin level, but Kakashi suspected Naruto had held back and had some sort of seal, probably weight or resistance, on his body to increase his overall speed and strength. Naruto hid it well, but the occasional stumble in places where there was no reason to stumble gave him the idea of speed and strength increasing seals. Kakashi suspected that Naruto had more jutsu in his ninjutsu arsenal, though he only showed his affinity for wind. The Sandaime had secretly informed him that Naruto had a high water affinity as well, but remained tight-lipped about anything else, implying that he was aware of Naruto's abilities but wanted Kakashi to find out for himself. Fuinjutsu was a branch of the ninja arts that not many chose to master. Currently there was only one exclusive seal master in the village. However, Naruto had already shown his proficiency with seals, being the inventor of the pad. He had been present at the secret testing of the device, being an elite jonin of the village. He along with most of the jonin were initially skeptical of the fact that an academy student had been the one to create the device, but once proved successful and with the word of the Hokage, the ones present had no choice but to believe him. But it wasn't hard to believe that Naruto could use seals, knowing who his parents were. What surprised the jonin more was the fact that Naruto could use genjutsu. While subtle about it, Kakashi could tell that it was Naruto and not the others who had cast it in the bell test. With his huge chakra reserves, Kakashi would have thought the boy would have, in all honesty, edited it, but Naruto surprised him with casting it, proving he had fine control over his chakra. Sasuke was also skilled, but outclassed by Naruto. The boy had a loner personality, but had mellowed a bit in the last 2 months. Kakashi knew that credit went to Naruto, who knew exactly how to push the Uchiha's buttons and had somehow created a bond of friendship between them. The boy's taijutsu was good, but he could only go so far without the Sharingan. Kakashi didn't worry about it, knowing that once Sasuke awakened it, he would close the gap between him and Naruto. While the Sharingan was an excellent tool to use for ninjutsu, it really depended on the size of the person's chakra reserves. And he didn't even need to speak about Sasuke's proficiency with ninja tools. Sakura was perhaps the only problem in Team 7. Her actions leaned more towards an obsessed fangirl than a kunoichi focused on her career. She would always be asking Sasuke out for dates, leading Kakashi to wonder if the girl only became a kunoichi to get close to Sasuke. She wasn't physically strong, did not know any useful jutsu, proficiency with ninja tools was mediocre at best and tried to make others feel bad to make herself feel better, as was the case with her and Naruto. Thankfully, Naruto seemed to be well versed in the art of ignoring Sakura. The only good thing about her was that she had excellent chakra control and intelligence, but that was of no use to her if she couldn't find a way to apply it on the battlefield. The only reason he took this C rank was to show his team that the ninja world wasn't as easy and forgiving as it seemed. They hadn't even experienced their first kills, or so he thought. Sasuke had his normal, neutral expression on his face as he walked to the gates for his mission. His thoughts, however, were anything but neutral. Sasuke couldn't understand Naruto Uzumaki, no matter how hard he tried to. Every time he thought he would figure Naruto out, the blonde would seemingly switch angles and leave Sasuke confused again. At first glance, he gave off the impression of a clown, but that quickly changed on the day of the graduation exam. Since then, Sasuke kept a close eye on Naruto. On the day of the bell test, Sasuke had been outraged by the level of skill displayed by the blonde. He suspected Naruto's taijutsu was at par, if not greater than his own. But to engage in a spar with a jonin, attacking and countering all attacks with a precision and fluidity Sasuke did not possess, was enough to ignite jealousy inside Sasuke. His ninjutsu was something Sasuke did not expect, but didn't exactly know why he was upset about it, so he didn't much of it. He was surprised with his teammates' prowess in Fuinjutsu, knowing that it was a difficult art to master. He had thought that Naruto, being the dead last, wouldn't even be interested in such an art. But he managed to surprise him again. He knew Naruto had massive stamina, having seen it in action in the academy. However, he could accept that, having no interest in the sealing arts, as in his eyes, it wouldn't help against Itachi. He had thought Naruto would hold a grudge against him for how Sasuke treated him in the academy. In a sense, Naruto never approached him, but was professional towards him. He never looked down on him or Sakura, instead encouraging them to get stronger. Sasuke was determined to figure Naruto out. Naruto would occasionally invite him to have ramen at Ichiraku's. Sasuke had accepted every time, desperate to piece together the puzzle of Naruto. They usually talked about their training schedules, more like Sasuke wanted to know how Naruto became so strong. They talked about their childhoods, surprising Sasuke just how similar they were. The weird thing about these meetings was, it became easier to talk to him every time. Sasuke was now pretty sure that he did not consider Naruto as a weakling to be dismissed at the first glance, but rather as a scale to measure himself against. He respected him. He wanted to become as strong as Naruto, in hopes that he would surpass him and finally become powerful enough to kill his brother. He had accepted Naruto as a comrade, for now. Sakura happily made her way to the gates, Sasuke being the main thought on her mind. She was sad how Sasuke always denied her a date, but kept her spirits high, just in case he decided to accept the next time. But in the past 2 months she has spent with her team, she was witness to some rather troubling developments. The first was that she was forced to accept that she could not use Naruto as a step to boost her confidence anymore. He had made it very clear that he would not tolerate her picking on him anymore. That made her realize with a small amount of shame that she had very unnecessarily picked on Naruto, who had no hand in anything that upset her. The second was that Naruto was strong. Easily stronger than Sasuke. The so-called dead last was the most physically capable of them all, proven when he could physically exert even more than Sasuke. He would take longer than her or Sasuke to get tired and recover much more quickly than both of them. The revelation of Naruto having cage-level chakra reserves from Kakashi had shocked her, having believed that Sasuke had the most chakra in their class. The third and hardest to accept was that Naruto and Sasuke came from very similar backgrounds. She refused to believe that at first, going as far as to call him a clanless orphan who could never match Sasuke. She was shocked though, when Sasuke came to Naruto's defense. He admonished Sakura, saying that she had gone too far. He harshly reminded her that he and Naruto shared the fact that they were orphans. Since then, Sakura had felt tremendously guilty and had tried to act nicer towards Naruto. She wouldn't call them friends though, they were far from that. She began to see Naruto in a new light. Though he always acted like he was indifferent, the subtle actions made it clear that he always cared for his comrades. She noticed that in the 2 months, Naruto and Sasuke had grown a little closer as friends. She saw that Naruto clearly knew that he was stronger than Sasuke, but never rubbed it in the boy's face, instead using the fact to encourage them both to get stronger. She was, by no means, a friend to Naruto, but hoped that he would at least consider her a worthy comrade in time. The two reached the gates exactly 15 minutes before 7. Sakura's eyes lit up as she saw the dark-haired boy. Sasuke-kun. She waved enthusiastically, and like always, was disappointed when he replied with his customary, "HN." Sasuke looked around, trying to find Naruto. Perhaps this mission may force Naruto to reveal what he is hiding from us, he thought. A hand fell on his shoulder and he barely caught himself from yelping. Instead, he turned his head back as calmly as he could to see Naruto's smirking face. Sasuke tried to play it cool, but knew Naruto had already seen his moment of weakness. Before he could do anything else, Naruto chuckled and patted his shoulder. "Itasak, Sasuke. Even Anbu would be hard-pressed to detect me in the middle of my pranks." Sasuke raised an eyebrow at that, silently waiting for Naruto to elaborate, but he didn't. Naruto simply leaned against the wall, waiting for their sensei. Sakura had a confused expression on her face. "Naruto, why don't you have a backpack like me?" asked Sasuke-kun. Naruto replied, "Well, for one, sealing scrolls are just more practical to use. It takes time to take off your backpack, and rummage through everything to find what you need. All you need to do in a sealing scroll is unroll it, push chakra into the required seal and boom. So much quicker than backpacks, don't you think? Also, I modified this scroll to suit my needs. I trust my creation more than anything else." "That's an interesting outlook, Naruto." The three genin turned around to see Kakashi and their client coming. Tazuna was still drinking, but he didn't seem as drunk as he was yesterday. Kakashi looked at Naruto. While your logic isn't wrong, it is a bit unconventional for shinobi to use sealing scrolls instead of backpacks. However, if it works for you, I have no problem with it. He finished, shrugging in the end. Turning towards his other two students, are you two ready? Seeing them nod, he turned to their client, let's go, Tazuna-san. Hiruzen looked at his clones doing the paperwork with a frown. What he had found 3 months ago after his surrogate grandson had suggested the use of Kage Bunshin had enraged him. Before, he hadn't really noticed just how many useless documents he got on his desk. Many of the decrees the civilian council wanted to have signed were only meant to increase their wealth and didn't help the village as a whole. Some that had been slipped into his mountain of work were outright attempts to legally abuse Naruto, like the hot springs requesting to be able to deny people they think unsuited to use the premises entry, or the grocers asking to set taxes for their goods themselves. Getting some of his personal anbu who were skilled in financial matters, he had found more evidence damning the council of bribing members of the Shinobi Council, mainly the elders. What set him off, however, was the way they had changed the syllabus and lowered the standard of shinobi. Even worse, Naruto had managed to gather more evidence about the Merchant Council and some of the civilian counselors of their misdeeds. Hiruzen chuckled at the thought. Naruto, with the help of his sensei, had managed to create a simple, but effective spy network within Konoha itself. Any intelligence gathered would be slipped in by Naruto to the Hokage during his visits, thus allowing him to keep an eye out for anything amiss. Tobirama Senju may have created the Shadow Clone Jutsu for reconnaissance and spying, but Naruto was using it to its full potential, with the help of seals. He had Jiraiya working on the outside, and Naruto working inside. Should the two ever combine forces, Konoha would be feared for their intelligence network for ages to come. He looked at his Fuin bracelet, something he considered a gift he had received after a long time. Not for the first time, he felt relief for stepping up and getting Naruto trained in secret. Encouraging the boy ended up actually benefiting him and the village. With the pad, he was able to receive messages in real time, not needing to rely on messenger hawks for long-distance messages, increasing the efficiency of sending out instructions and receiving updates, leading to a rise in mission success rates. The bracelets had motivated him to resume training again. While not able to reach the strength in his prime, he was able to gain back a part of his strength, even giving the Anbu a workout. Making a mental note to ask Naruto for permission to mass-produce the bracelets, he went back to his part of the paperwork. The civilian council's meddling in shinobi affairs would end today. No longer would they be able to stifle the will of fire. They had left the gates over 4 hours ago. 4 hours of silence. Naruto appreciated it, being able to sift through Tobirama's memories and seeing the process of inventing the various jutsu that had been in the Nadime's arsenal. He would replay some of the memories whenever Kurama was asleep, the fox having made a hobby of trying to force the memory and image of Tobirama Sosofu and Takabachin doing the no-pants dance and watching Naruto getting flustered. This was also a way of dealing with long hours of awkward silence. He could talk to Tazuna, but nothing came to mind about what to talk. Sakura seemed to sense the awkwardness as well, and she did not have the same problem as Naruto of finding a topic to talk about. Tazuna-san, you are from Wave Country, right? Tazuna turned his head towards her. Yeah, what about it? Do you have ninja in Wave Country? Surprisingly, it was Kakashi who answered. Actually, Wave does not have a ninja village. Each of the elemental nations has their own hidden shinobi villages. But the smaller countries don't have the resources to fund, let alone maintain their own hidden village. Budget, people, missions, there are so many resources to account for that the smaller nations can't afford. So they prefer to hire ninjas from other countries. Naruto only paid half attention to the explanation, the other half of his attention focused on the puddle a couple of meters ahead of them to the side of the road. He could feel the hint of malice coming from it. It looked so out of place on the sunny day that a word automatically rang through his mind, trap. This must be the Demon Brothers. He turned to Tazuna and asked about the travel duration, while subtly glancing at Kakashi-sensei, quickly and discreetly making hand signs, 2 shinobi in puddle ahead, Chunin level chakra with water affinity. Orders. Kakashi blinked. He knows Anbu hand signs. Maybe the Hokage must have taught him. Wait, how does he know how many are there? And he can sense affinities. I'll have to ask him later. Recovering quickly, he signed back, acknowledged. Be on guard. There's something I want to confirm. Giving a subtle nod to his sensei, he then nudged Sasuke, motioning him to glance at the puddle. Sasuke raised an eyebrow, for he didn't understand what Naruto was trying to imply, but it suddenly clicked after a moment. He nodded his thanks to Naruto, who nodded back. They subtly repositioned themselves in front of Tazuna. As soon as they passed the puddle, Naruto's sense of danger buzzed loudly and he called out, "Watch out." He and Sasuke both jumped back in time, but Kakashi was apparently too slow to react. Two ninjas jumped from the puddle and attacked Kakashi with a bladed chain, tearing him to shreds. At least that's what Sakura and Sasuke saw. Naruto's senses were fast enough to follow the kawarimi, followed by a minor genjutsu. One down, the one on the right declared. They both then turned their attention towards the genin. Sakura, guard Tazuna, Naruto shouted, turning his attention towards the one who was closing in on him. He palmed 3 shuriken and, coating them with his supersonic chakra made of wind and lightning, threw them towards the chain. As the chain was cut off, separating the ninja, Naruto palmed 2 kunai in reverse grip and coated them in supersonic chakra. He then charged towards the closest one, who was distracted by the chain cut off. Taking advantage of the distraction, Naruto executed a diagonal slash along the torso of the ninja. The supersonic chakra easily tore through and made a deep cut. Not enough to be fatal, but deep enough to hurt. The ninja cried out in pain and instinctively held his left hand to the cut. Naruto took full advantage of the opening and flipped over the wounded ninja, hitting the back of his head with the blunt end of the kunai, rendering him unconscious. Creating a clone to tie up the fallen ninja, Naruto looked over to Sasuke, who was about to clash with his opponent, a kunai and shuriken in hand. But before he could do that, a hand appeared in the ninja's path, right in front of his throat. Needless to say, Kakashi's block knocked the ninja out cold. Smiling at his students, he said, "Good job on taking him out, Naruto. You too, Sasuke, keeping the enemy away from the client. Sorry, Sakura, I didn't know you would freeze up like that." He tied his ninja to the tree where Naruto's clone had tied the other ninja to. He missed the frustrated look on Sasuke's face, which turned to jealousy as he gazed at Naruto, who was watching Kakashi. He was easily able to take out the ninja in less than half a minute. Why couldn't I do that? I got stuck in engaging the ninja instead of trying to take him out as quickly as possible. He clenched his fists in agitation. Naruto felt the jealousy from Sasuke coming in waves and sighed internally. The guy had a massive inferiority complex that would come back to bite him in the ass later. Shaking his head, he listened as Kakashi explained, "These guys are known as the Demon Brothers. They are rogue chunin from Kurigakure no Sato. They are somewhat dangerous." Tazuna looked scared out of his wits. "If you were not skewered to pieces, why did you let your genin handle them?" Kakashi smiled. "I had to test them how they would perform in the field. Besides, I had to find out who they were attacking. As because of the grudge between our villages," his expression then became serious, "are you?" At that moment, the ninja with one horn, the one whom Naruto had knocked out, seemed to wake up. He groaned in pain. "How did you know we were going to attack?" Naruto spoke up before Kakashi could. "A puddle on a completely sunny day, added to the fact that it hasn't rained in weeks." "Well done, genius," he sarcastically clapped. Sakura let out a light giggle at this. Naruto's snark was funny when it was aimed at others. Kakashi narrowed his eye at Tazuna. "We need to talk." Tazuna adopted a nervous expression. "About what?" It was stated in the mission scroll that you needed protection from bandits, not rogue ninjas. Especially those from Kurigakure, where the ninjas complete their missions, no matter the cost. Why would they be after you? His tone was light, but the suspicion was heavy. Unless they were hired specifically to take you out. Naruto added his 2 cents, pointing at Tazuna. Tazuna tried to think up an excuse, but it was already too late. With a resigned sigh, he asked them, "Have you heard of a man named Gato?" Kakashi questioned with a thoughtful frown, "Do you mean one who is among the richest men in the nations?" That Gato. I've heard of him, Naruto stated. Kakashi raised an eyebrow, silently asking to elaborate. He's the owner of Gato Corporation, a predominantly shipping company. When I last read about him, he was among the top 5 richest in the nations. Suspected of criminal activity, but no proof. He said with his arms crossed. The very same, Tazuna agreed. He came to Wave Country more than 2 years ago. First we didn't think anything about it, but soon he had bought up all the shipping industry of our nation. You see, Wave Country is an island, so we are dependent on the shipping to get goods. But that wasn't the worst part. He used his monopoly to drain the country dry. The people live in poverty. Many lost their houses to Gato. Whoever protests is killed. He takes what he wants with his hired thugs, making sure nobody dares to oppose him. His shipping business covers his criminal activities. He deals with drugs, alcohol, rare goods, even slaves. Anything and everything that brings him money. The only thing he fears is the bridge I'm building. If I finish my bridge, his monopoly will be rendered obsolete and our country will be back in business because we will be connected to the mainland. So why didn't you just tell the truth to Hokage-sama? Kakashi glared at him. Tazuna threw his hands up. I couldn't. Wave Country has been ed dry. We don't have enough money to pay for more than a C-rank mission. Kakashi shook his head. While that is sad, you had no right to lie to the Hokage. This mission is at least a B rank, possibly A rank, should we encounter even more powerful shinobi. This is not a job my genin are suited to perform. Glancing at his students briefly, he said, but as they are ninjas of Konoha, they have a say in this as much as I do now. He then turned to his students. What do you think we should do? Sasuke spoke up first. I say we continue, Kakashi. We can't afford to let people think that Konoha will let a country fall to a man like Gato. And I don't want an incomplete mission on my first mission outside the village. Kakashi sighed. The boy's complex was acting up again. But he had surprisingly made a good point. Sakura looked less scared than before, but still scared. I say we go forward, Kakashi-sensei. Kakashi then looked to Naruto, who had his eyes closed, deep in thought, with his thumb and index finger on his chin. What do you think, Naruto? Naruto opened his eyes and looked at his sensei. Permission to speak freely, sensei. Seeing Kakashi nod, he continued, I say we continue, despite going against protocol, since it isn't just a mission where the client wanted to save money. This is about a whole country going down the drain because one greedy bastard wants to fill his pockets more than he already has. But this isn't really an escort protection mission anymore. Kakashi raised an eyebrow, ignoring the others' confused looks. Explain. We're going into hostile territory with our opposition on the lookout for us. This is more an infiltration, Kakashi-sensei. That's a very interesting point. And how would that change things? I don't know. I will need more information. It doesn't matter, Sasuke interrupted, glaring at Naruto. He wasn't going to let his chance to become stronger get taken from him. Sasuke knew that his teammate had a good point. However, his pride won over his rational thought. Whoever comes our way, we can take them on. Naruto resisted the urge to smack his head. Sasuke, the ones we faced were B-ranked Chunin. The next person we may face will probably be a Jonin-level shinobi, who may be equal to Kakashi-sensei in strength. And these guys are actually known associates of Zabuza Momochi, who was a member of the 7 Ninja Swordsmen of the Mist. Do you really think we can take him on when we haven't managed to defeat Kakashi-sensei when he held back? Kakashi, while surprised that Naruto knew about all this, had to admit he had a strong point. However, his other 2 students thought differently. We can take them. We won't grow stronger if we don't test ourselves. You realize we may be walking right into an ambush with the client, right? It doesn't matter. You can stay back while I do the fighting. Arrogant, impulsive idiot. How in Kami's name is he Rookie of the Year? Tobirama Sosofu, Kurama, how did you deal with these arrogant pricks? Did you say something? No, it's fine. Go back to sleep. Naruto thought with a sweat drop. Kakashi felt the distinct urge to high-five a 9-tailed fox but shook his head. Naruto's right, Sasuke. We're heading into dangerous territory. For all we know we could be heading into an ambush. Sasuke, however, like most Uchiha, never budged. Naruto finally sighed. Fine, we'll go along with your plan. We'll head to Wave Country. We can continue, Kakashi-sensei. Kakashi looked at his 3 students, one who was smirking, the other frowning and the third one was impassive. He sighed and said, let's go. But be on guard. Receiving 3 nods, he called Tazuna to join them, missing his sigh of utter relief. Naruto put the seals on both the brothers' foreheads, putting them to sleep after getting the necessary information from them and discreetly stealing the poisons they had in their person. Kakashi told him the Konoha shinobi would be arriving to take them, so he sold leave instructions for them on how to remove the seal. Tazuna saw the application of the seals with chakra and couldn't help but comment, damn it, boy. One would think you were an Uzumaki of old. I am an Uzumaki, Tazuna-san. Naruto answered, a real Uzumaki, but your hair is blonde, not red. I don't know about my parents, but my mother was an Uzumaki. The Hokage only told me that much. What's so special about the Uzumaki? Sakura asked, clueless. Kakashi looked at her strangely, didn't they teach you that in the academy? He asked. Huh, what do you mean? Kakashi sighed, okay, impromptu history lesson. Before the Third Great Shinobi War, Konoha had a sister village named Uzushiogakure, located in the former Land of Whirlpools, an island nation close to Wave Country. The leaders of the village were the Uzumaki clan. Ignoring the looks of surprise from Sasuke and Sakura, he continued, the clan were known for their longevity, massive chakra reserves, skill in kenjutsu and incredible skill in fuinjutsu. They were distant cousins of the Senju clan that founded Konoha. It was thanks to them that Konoha had won the First Great Shinobi War. Sadly, just before the end of the Second Great War, Kumo and Iwa suddenly attacked Uzushio to remove them in order to have a chance against Konoha. Hiri had also joined in at the last minute. While they managed to wipe out the clan, they lost a majority of their own troops due to the superior skill of the Uzumaki in fuinjutsu. Konoha ninja were sent to assist Uzushio but were too late. They only arrived in time to see the village wiped out and the remaining forces retreating. They ended up wiping out the remaining invading forces. In remembrance of our failure to reach Uzushio in time to help them, Konoha wears the spiral of the Uzumaki clan on the back of our Chunin and Jonin vests. Exactly like the one on Naruto's jacket and right sleeve. So he too is from an extinct clan. That explains his expertise in fuinjutsu. Sasuke realized, looking at Naruto, who had an impassive look in his face. Sakura was solemn. She hadn't known about that. Why didn't they teach us this in the academy? It seems to have been a really important event. Naruto had known the story from his mother's journal, even going to visit the place during his 2-year trip as a hunter. The village looked desolate, but he had left a clone to look for anything valuable and to gain any knowledge if possible. Maybe it's time I call them back, he thought to himself. After a moment of silence, the team and Tazuna continued without any further delay until they reached a coast where Tazuna had organized transport to Wave Country. The man greeted Tazuna and cast a wary eye on the Konoha squad, but kept his words to himself. He stirred them, appearing extremely nervous in spite of the dense cover of the morning fog. As soon as the bridge came into view, Kakashi let out a low whistle. That is one impressive bridge, that is. Naruto shook his head in wonder. I've never seen anything as awesome as that bridge before. Sakura was gaping at the sheer size of the bridge and Sasuke was, like always, neutral-faced. Suddenly Naruto realized where he was heading to and decided it was time to check in. It always gave him a kick that he had telepathy with his clones. Prime to Wave Force. Do you copy? This is Wave 1. I'm in the main base. Copy. Wave 2. I'm at the second base. Copy. Wave 3. I've infiltrated one of Gato's brothels. Copy. Wave 4, 5 and 6 here. We're walking among the streets disguised and looking for any trouble. Copy. Good. The team and I will be reaching Wave soon. What's the status? Bad. Wave Country is dead dry. The produce in the market is scarce, and on top of that, some thugs still try to harass the population and force themselves on the women here. Managed to follow some of them and infiltrate the base and knock them out. We're avoiding suspicion for now, but Gato's ranks will lessen soon now that you're here. That's good. Anything else? Yeah, Zabuza Momochi and his helper are on their way and may be watching you as we speak. Naruto forced himself not to flinch and extended his senses when he heard the message. He felt two chakra signatures, one high Jonin and the other high Chunin. The second chakra felt different. Very well, I can sense them. Keep on watch. I'll meet one of you tomorrow. Over and out. Naruto kept his senses alert. This would be the second time he faced a swordsman of the mist. As much as he hated to admit it, he was looking forward to it. Meanwhile, back in the village, the Sandaime was sitting in the meeting room with the Shinobi Council on one side and the Civilian Council on the other. The three elders, Homura, Kaharu and Danzo stood on his right side. A Civilian Council member spoke up. Why have you called this meeting, Hokage-sama? Hiruzen did not reply, eyes closed and in deep thought. At last he spoke. Do you all, especially the Civilian Council, he glared at said council, know why the Civilian Council was established by my sensei, Nadaime-sama? There was no answer from both the sides, but the elders and Shikaku seemed to grasp the true purpose of the meeting from the question. Kaharu moved forward. Hokage-sama, you can't. She was silenced with a wave of killing intent. It made one thing clear in everyone's heads: he's in a bad mood today. To assist the Shinobi Council in times of war. Last I checked, Konoha hasn't been at war for the last 15 years. Therefore, your entire existence is debunked. Outraged cries came from the civilian section, but killing intent from the Shinobi side for interrupting the Hokage silenced them. The Hokage glared at them. If anyone interrupts me one more time, I will have the person executed. Understood. He enforced the threat with killing intent. After seeing their urgent nods, he continued. The only reason, and I have checked the records thoroughly, he said motioning to the big pile of paperwork beside him, that the only reason they exist is because of political mongering and bribing some members of the Shinobi Council. His eyes swept the room, intensifying the tension. My hands were tied after the Kyuubi's attack and the Uchiha massacre. The Civilian Council took advantage of this and began to take charge of more important tasks by bribing the Shinobi side. He said while glaring at the two elders, who didn't even look into his eyes. Until they finally managed to get their hands on the Shinobi Academy, the most important stage of the Shinobi's career. Changing the syllabus and actually lowering the standard of Shinobi, the council gradually became more corrupt. Tell me if I'm wrong. He finished, practically glaring at everyone and daring them to disagree. Danzo grit his teeth. The Civilian Council was easily manipulated and as such, was a form of power that he could control, not the Hokage. But it seemed Sarutobi had finally had enough of their bullshit and was going to dissolve the council. The worst about all of this, he couldn't lift a finger without resorting to Shisui Uchiha's eye, and he would rather die than attempt something that foolish. No one spoke in the council room, which was enough for an answer that the Hokage had hit the bullseye. I will hold a vote now, to dissolve the Civilian Council. He declared. A fat man stood up, face red and ready to shout at the Hokage. He didn't even finish the first word that came out of his mouth before his head rolled on the ground, courtesy of the Anbu. They cleaned up and vanished back into the shadows. Suddenly seeming to remember something, he turned to the elders. Before I commence the vote, the elders will not be voting seeing that their position only allows them to advise and as such, have no say in any final decision made by the Hokage. Kaharu and Homura had a defeated posture. Heads down, shoulders sagged, an aura of dismay. Danzo simply stared ahead, not showing any emotions. Sarutobi had caught them totally unawares with this maneuver. All against dissolving the Civilian Council on basis of the charges I have read. The entire civilian side raised their hands, but they knew they were defeated. All in favor of dissolving the Civilian Council based on the charges I have read. The entire Shinobi side raised their hands. Their numbers were equal to that of the civilians, but the air of smugness was unmistakable in the room. A tie-breaking vote was required of the Hokage, who said, I am in favor of this notion. Straightening up, he declared, the Civilian Council is dissolved as of today. I will appoint a Shinobi committee to review all the corrupted laws they have passed in favor of themselves. A separate division will be responsible for reviewing Shinobi areas. The Civilian Council can leave now. All of them slowly got up, an air of defeat around them all. They filed out of the chamber one by one. The elders, please leave. I have some important things to discuss with the shinobi clan heads. The elders couldn't protest against this as well. Clan business was serious, and no one, not even the Hokage, was to interfere unless it concerned the integrity of the village. As soon as they left the room, Hiruzen snapped his fingers. An Anbu appeared with a scroll held in his hand. He put it on the Hokage's desk and went back to his post. A signal from the Hokage caused all the Anbu to leave the room. Hiruzen opened it, revealing it to be a storage scroll. He slapped his hand on the scroll and in a puff of smoke, a bottle of sake and the same number of cups as the Shinobi Council appeared. Hiruzen smirked. Who wants drinks? Chapter text. As Team 7 and their client reached the shore of Wave Country, the fisherman wished Tazuna best of luck to get home safely while Tazuna thanked him for his help. Kakashi asked Tazuna, "How long is your home away from here?" "A journey of about 1 hour and a half." Kakashi nodded and motioned for his team to start walking. Though he didn't know the reason why, he suddenly felt a sense of foreboding. Glancing towards his team, he wasn't entirely surprised to see that only Naruto seemed to share his wariness. He looked at the blonde's hand which was signing to him. "We have company." Not waiting to see his sensei's order, Naruto threw a shuriken into a bush on his left. Sasuke and Sakura jumped at that, along with Tazuna. Kakashi narrowed his eye. "What is it?" Naruto walked to the bush, a kunai ready in hand. He saw a white rabbit, scared to the bone. A white rabbit. The fur is all wrong for this time of the year. Which means it was raised indoors. So it was used a substitution. He immediately looked up to his right. Location changing at a fast pace. Sakura scolded him, "Baka. Look what you did to the poor rabbit." Naruto ignored her as his danger sense kicked in. "Get down." He and Kakashi yelled together. Everyone dropped to the ground just in time to avoid a giant spinning sword from cutting off their heads. Naruto was even able to bring Tazuna and Sakura down just in time. Everyone stood up and turned towards the tree in which the sword was buried, a man standing on the handle. He had black hair and brown eyes, his slashed kiri headband tilted upwards to the left side of his head, signifying his status as a missing nin. He wore mist-stripped pants and hand warmers that extended to his biceps. Kakashi's voice took a tone of mock surprise. Well, if it isn't Zabuza Momochi, rogue nin and former member of the Seven Swordsmen of the Mist. Known as the Kurigakure no Kijin, Demon of the Hidden Mist. The now identified Zabuza raised a non-existent eyebrow. Well. Copy Ninja Kakashi. Now it makes sense why the Demon Brothers failed. Surprising to see you with a team of brats. He replied mockingly. Now I'm going to ask you to hand over the old man. Do that and you all get to escape with your lives. Kakashi had a bead of sweat running down the side of his face. Naruto was right. This is really bad. Zabuza is a high A rank missing nin, bordering S rank, which means this mission is a high A rank. Naruto stayed calm, having known about Zabuza beforehand. He took out 2 kunai from his hip pouches, held in reverse grip and ready to engage, but Kakashi held a hand in front of him. Everyone stay back. He is not someone you can take on. It'll be tough, even for me. Unless I use this, he said, lifting up his Hittite and exposing a blood-red eye with 3 tomos in a circular pattern. Zabuza gave a dark amused chuckle. The Sharingan, this early Kakashi. I'm honored. I've read about you, back when I was in Anbu. The man who was said to have copied 1,000 jutsu, Sharingan no Kakashi. Sasuke's head whipped around to stare at Kakashi, more specifically, at his left eye. How does he have the Sharingan? It's supposed to be an Uchiha clan dojutsu. Did he steal one on the night of the massacre? So deep into his thoughts that he didn't see Zabuza make a strange stance and make a half-ram sign and call out, Ninpo, Kurigakure no Jutsu. Ninja art. Hidden mist technique. Mist slowly started to surround them. In just a few moments, the mist was so thick that it was hard to see 2 feet in front of them. Suddenly, incredible amount of killing intent filled the air, causing all of them to tense up. But Naruto immediately relaxed, having gathered his wits. This was nothing compared to what Kurama, Tobirama and his other adversaries put him through. Sasuke and Sakura were a different story. Sasuke was frozen in his place, while Sakura was barely keeping herself from crying. The killing intent seemed to relax and Kakashi's voice rang out, "Don't worry, Sasuke, Sakura. There's no way I will let my comrades die." Kakashi had released his own killing intent, easing up some of the pressure. Turning back, Kakashi said, "He'll come after me first." Zabuza is a known master of the silent killing technique. Before you know it, it is over. Before anyone could say anything, Zabuza's voice zammed from all around the mist. 8 points. Liver, lungs, spine, subclavicular vein, jugular vein, brain, kidneys, and heart. These places, if hit too hard or cut too deep, are a one-hit kill. Where should I strike first? Yeah, no, don't care about his preferences, Naruto thought as he took a deep breath. Fuden, Daitapa. Wind style. Great breakthrough. The burst of wind he expelled blew away all the fog, revealing Zabuza standing a few feet away from the group, sword in hand. Now it's better for you, sensei. Naruto smiled, kunai held in reverse grip. He had already released all his resistance seals. Zabuza clicked his tongue in annoyance. Annoying brat, he cancelled out my jutsu. How the hell does a genin know wind manipulation anyway? Naruto saw it. Zabuza was looking at him in annoyance, the same way Raiga had looked at him when they had fought. Before he could react, Kakashi appeared behind his back, slashing at him. Zabuza collapsed in a puddle of water. Mizu Bunshin, huh? Naruto and Kakashi thought simultaneously. Zabuza appeared behind Kakashi, slashing him off. A flicker of surprise was visible when Kakashi too collapsed into water. Kakashi came up behind him. "Nice try," he mocked. Zabuza chuckled, "So you copied my jutsu, hiding in the trees and waiting to strike. Clever." He swung his blade towards Kakashi, who ducked under it and slashed his own kunai as a counter. However, the force behind Zabuza's blade was much more than Kakashi anticipated, and almost went down to his knees. Zabuza didn't hesitate in giving a chakra-enforced kick to Kakashi, who was unable to dodge in time. However, Zabuza's eyes widened when he saw that the one he was kicking was not Kakashi, but the blonde brat, who flew and hit the tree. He was about to scoff at the kid when the kid burst into smoke. Looking around, he saw Kakashi at the shore with the brat. "Thanks for the save, Naruto. That was a good use of the kawarimi. Don't mention it, you still owe some training after all." Zabuza scoffed, "Whatever, you got lucky, it won't happen again." He began a long series of hand signs, 44 in total, which Kakashi copied and Naruto knew very well, his blood clone having been drilled by Tobirama to learn it with as less hand seals as possible. Not one to waste an opportunity though, he kept his eyes on Kakashi's hands and sense on his chakra. Sweden. Suiryuden no Jutsu. Water style. Water dragon bullet technique. Both the Jonin shouted. 2 identical dragons made of water appeared, taking each other out. Zabuza moved in to engage Kakashi with his blade, while Kakashi parried back. They continued this for 2 minutes, after which Zabuza jumped back, starting a new series of hand signs. Kakashi wasted no time in copying them, and Naruto wasted no time in copying Kakashi. Sasuke, who had just come out of his stupor, was in a daze, seeing the power of the Sharingan so close. Did he really copy all the hand signs? My moves. He is, Zabuza thought, before he was interrupted. Reading them, Kakashi said, finishing Zabuza's thought. Did he read my mind? He is really pissing me off with that damn eye of his. Kakashi finished, for Zabuza, continuing to copy Zabuza's hand signs. Continuing with his hand seals with Kakashi copying Zabuza, the man yelled, "All you're doing is copying me. You can't beat me with those cheap circus tricks, you monkey bastard." Kakashi yelling the same thing while copying the hand signs. I wonder how Gigi would react to that. I bet a lot of fire would be involved. Naruto thought to himself while copying the hand signs. Zabuza came to a slight stop, seeing an image of himself behind Kakashi. What is that, a genjutsu? Zabuza thought. His slight falter cost him the victory as Kakashi finished the jutsu ahead of him. Sweden, Daibikufu no Jutsu. Water style. Giant vortex jutsu. Literally, a giant vortex formed around Kakashi, much larger than his body. It approached Zabuza at incredible speeds, who was unable to do anything. It slammed into him, and he was washed away like an insect under the force of the jutsu, slamming roughly into a tree and leaving him dazed. Kakashi approached Zabuza with a kunai in hand, intent on finishing him off. Groaning in pain and bracing himself for his death, Zabuza asked him, "Can you see the future?" Kakashi answered, "Yes, and your future is death." Naruto's sweat dropped. What a corny guy. Just as Kakashi was about to finish the job, Tsusenbon came out of nowhere, hitting Zabuza in the neck. The man fell to the ground with a thud. All of them looked around to spot where the Senbon came from, but Naruto pointed towards a tree, from which came a soft chuckle. A masked person was standing on a branch. "Looks like you were right." The person had long black hair with a slender frame. The outfit was a green kimono pinstriped which stopped at the knees. There was a brown sash around the waist with a tail, wrapped around twice. But the most identifying thing about he person was the mask they wore. It was white with thin, curved eye holes and a red wavy design in place of the mouth, as well as the Kurigakure symbol etched on top. The person was a hunter nin. Naruto couldn't quite place the voice as female or male. It was unsettling. He would assume it was a male. However, he figured this was Zabuza's accomplice, but didn't make a move yet. "I thank you for your help," the hunter Enin said as he hopped down. Kakashi knelt and checked Zabuza's pulse to see if the man was truly dead or not. Finding nothing, he concluded that Zabuza was dead. "I have been hunting him for quite a while," he said. Picking up the body, he prepared to shuncheon away when a hand grabbed his shoulder. "Wait." The hunter nin turned to face Naruto's narrowed eyes. "As a hunter nin, isn't it your job to dispose of the bodies on the spot?" The hunter nin saw the suspicion in the blonde's eyes and explained, "This body holds many secrets. The village would like to know them before doing that." With that, he was gone. "Secrets my ass. He just wanted to get away. Too bad for him, I have him marked." Naruto thought. "We've managed to map out the base, Prime. Sending you the details via the Fuin bracelet now." "Roger that, Prime over and out." Kakashi pulled his headband down. "Well, that is over with," and promptly fell face first into the ground. Sakura rushed to him. "Kakashi-sensei." She turned him over to see that his eye was closed. "It's chakra exhaustion, Sakura." She turned towards Naruto. He explained, "The Sharingan is an Uchiha Keke Genkai. It is not meant for him and as such, consumes his chakra faster. He just needs time to recover." Tazuna spoke up. "Well, in that case, let's hurry to my house so he can recover safely." Naruto nodded and created 3 shadow clones. One of them hanged into a stretcher while the other 2 put the exhausted Jonin on it and started walking. Sasuke walked beside Naruto. "Hey Naruto," said boy turned to him, "how did you know about the demon brothers before they attacked us?" Naruto looked confused. "Haven't I told you before that I am a censor?" Sasuke's eyes immediately narrowed at him. "What?" Naruto sighed. "This would take a while." Hinata stood with her team in front of the Hokage. Team 8 had gone on a D-rank mission to deliver an important scroll to the outpost. It was kind of insulting to be delivering mail, but at least they got out of the village. They had stopped for a break on their way back when they ended up running into a ninja cat who begged them to help save their leader Nekobe's granddaughter Tamaki. Kurenai had sympathetically told the cat that they had to get to the Hokage first, which would take 2 days from where they were. That was when Hinata had reminded her of the pad that they had received from the guard post at the gate. Sending the message to the Hokage and getting the green light for the C-rank mission, the team had gone and helped rescue the girl. Nekoba had thanked them profusely, receiving a nod of thanks from Shino, a blush and bow from Hinata and a grin from Kiba. Hinata was happy that she finally got a chance to test a new technique she had developed with Naruto's help. After she had finished the first step of lightning manipulation, she had tried combining the Hake Jurokusho 8 trigrams 16 palms with her lightning element. Trying it on her clone, the results had been shocking, no pun intended. She now tried it on a real opponent and she was pleased with the results, while her team had stood open-mouthed at the electrocuted form of her opponent. The Hokage congratulated them on a job well done. After they had been dismissed, Kurenai dismissed the team for the day, before motioning Hinata to walk with her. How did you know about the pad, Hinata? I know it because I have one too, Kurenai-sensei. Kurenai looked at her surprised. How do you have one? When you're best friends with its inventor you tend to get one. Hinata said with a smile. Kurenai had a skeptical look. I know you like the boy, Hinata. But it's hard to believe that the dead last of your class invented something as innovative and useful as that. Hinata sighed and looked at Kurenai. Sensei, I'm grateful for all you've done for me, and for being there for me ever since I was 9. But I know Naruto-kun. Everything about him, even his burden. Ignoring Kurenai's shock, she continued. I don't know how he does it. He's carrying this burden for all of us, and instead of thanking him every day, the village hates him and blames him for the incident. Do you really think he hasn't lost anything? For all we know he may have lost his parents on the night of the attack, and he may never really know about them. He won't have memories of outings or conversations around dinner tables. Be thankful that he is as kind as he is in helping the village with his inventions instead of becoming the self-fulfilling prophecy the citizens are making him to be. Kurenai was speechless. The shy, timid girl she knew was no longer there, instead replaced by a confident girl and a strong kunoichi in her own right. The conviction with which she spoke about Naruto was something she never expected. Kurenai began to feel ashamed of the way she had thought of the boy, not knowing what he had gone through. Resolving to do better, she said, Hinata, I'm sorry. I guess I never thought that I was one among the rest. I will try to do better. But, how did you know about it? Hinata looked at her for a moment and then smiled. I'm not the one you should be apologizing to, sensei. But to answer your question, he told me 2 years ago. I know there are some other things he's hiding, but he promised to tell me after he comes back from his mission. I better be going, sensei. See you tomorrow. Kurenai watched as the girl who she came to love like her own sister walked off. She thought of the conversation and had come to the understanding that it was Naruto who had managed to bring out this side of her. She along with majority of the ninja in the village were content to treat the boy neutrally, but she always felt a bit of resentment as she had lost her father to the Kyuubi. However, Naruto was known to be an orphan, whose parents no one knew of. She didn't take into account that he too had lost his parents on that night. She then had a thought, there's no way that a dead last managed to invent something like that. The pad is some advanced fuinjutsu, the likes of which I've never seen before. The only ones I know who could be good at sealing are Jiraiya-sama and Kushina-sensei, but Kushina-sensei died on the night of the... She stopped in her tracks. Kushina Uzumaki was a mistress of fuinjutsu and kenjutsu and had tutored her and her friend Yugao in the art respectively. Kurenai herself, though not proficient, was no slouch in the area, having managed to seal off the destructive personality of Yakumo Kurama, the heiress of the Kurama clan within her. Could Naruto Uzumaki be her son? But that's impossible, she thought to herself. She needed answers from her friend. She set off in the direction of Yugao's apartment. Team 7 and their client walked in a quiet manner towards Tezuna's house. Naruto had the others arranged into a formation. Sasuke and Sakura would guard Tezuna from the front while he would protect them from the rear. Sasuke had rudely questioned who had made him the leader. Naruto had coolly responded that if he had a better idea, then speak up. As Naruto suspected, Sasuke didn't exactly have a lot of bright ideas. With a glare hot enough to burn metal, he had growled at Naruto, just because I am doing this doesn't mean you can order me around, Dobi. You will tell me everything about your sensing ability. Naruto had sighed at that. It seemed Sasuke's inferiority complex was acting up, probably because of what happened with Zabuza and the demon brothers. Maybe he was also pissed about seeing the Hunter Nin from before. Someone their age and already a part of the Hunter Nin program must have set him off. They thankfully made it to Tezuna's house without any more attacks. They all saw it, the lakeside house. They all waited on the porch as Tezuna went and knocked on the front door. After a minute, the door swung open and a slim, pretty woman tushed out and embraced Tezuna. Naruto raised an eyebrow at her, probably must be his daughter. Chu-san, I'm so glad that you are safe. She spoke with obvious relief in her voice before she spotted the ninja behind him. She gave them a small bow. I'm sorry, where are my manners? I'm Tsunami, please come in. Is he hurt? She asked, pointing towards the half-conscious Kakashi on the stretcher. Her eyes widened at the three identical blondes, but she was quick to recover. Naruto spoke up, he's simply exhausted. Tsunami-san, is there a room where we can put him? She smiled and moved aside for them to come. Sasuke and Sakura removed their shinobi sandals and went inside while Naruto first removed Kakashi's sandals and then his own, going inside. The small gesture of caring brought an unseen smile onto Kakashi's face. Tsunami answered, I just need to put down a futon. I'm sorry, I didn't get your names. Sakura smiled. Sakura Haruno, Tsunami-san. Tsunami smiled tightly at her. Something about the girl just unsettled her. Sasuke was much ruder, Sasuke Uchiha. He barely glanced at her, dismissing her as unimportant. Naruto threw him a dirty glare for that, which was wholeheartedly reciprocated. Naruto turned around and smiled, I'm Naruto Uzumaki, Tsunami-san. Nice to meet you. When you are nice to others, they are nice to you. This was demonstrated when Tsunami returned his easy grin and replied, nice to meet you too, Naruto-kun. Follow me upstairs where you can lay your sensei down for rest. After the futon was laid down and Kakashi on it, Naruto just stared at the wall blankly, processing what happened to them so far. A hand on his shoulder snapped him out of his trance. He looked up to see Tsunami's face, full of concern. It was a bit strange, having someone look at him like that. It gave him a funny feeling in his stomach. Are you okay, Naruto-kun? He took some time to respond. I'm okay. Standing up and putting a small smile on his face, he turned to her and asked, so, Tsunami-san, how about I help you cook dinner? Hinata stood in the middle of the pond in the garden of the compound. She meditated, getting the flow of chakra through her coils the way Naruto had told her. She had seen Naruto create whirlpools underneath him while he stood with a bored look on his face, as if it was second nature to him. She opened her eyes and started to go through the katas for the juken. She let her body flow, not trying to control it. Naruto had told her that the juken style that fit her should be more flowing, since she was a water element contrary to the standard earth element that the juken represented. She could feel the water ripple underneath her and began to add the element to her katas, not aware that she had an observer. Hanabi watched transfixed as her sister went through the katas that looked like juken, but different. But she couldn't fault her for it. Her sister looked absolutely stunning, while the water droplets around her gave an ethereal beauty to the scene. She had acknowledged that Hinata was really stronger than her. She only wished that Neji Nisan would stop demeaning her all the time and going on about fate. She had begun training as well, so as not to fall behind her sister. Ne-sama, it took someone from outside the clan to bring out your true potential. Naruto Nisan may look like an idiot, but he really had us all fooled, except you. I have no doubt you will be one of the strongest Hyuga among us all. But I will work hard so as to catch up to you. The sound of metal clanging reached Kurenai's ears as she walked through the forest of death. She headed there as she couldn't find her friends at their apartments. She appeared in a clearing just in time to see her friends Anko and Yugao locked in a kenjutsu spar. Anko was thrusting her new wakizashi towards Yugao, who dodged it easily. This went on for some time until the kenjutsu mistress parried another thrust and knocked the sword out of Anko's hand, putting her own sword against her neck. Yield, she said calmly. The special Jonin raised her hands in surrender and the Anbu took her sword off. You've improved, Anko-chan. You actually caused me to get serious a bit. Anko pouted. Still not enough. I still can't wrap my head around how the Gaki managed to improve in kenjutsu in such a way that he could give you a run for your money. I mean, you're among the best kenjutsu users in Konoha. Yugao shrugged and was about to answer when she felt a presence. Turning her head she said, you can come out now, Kurenai. Said Jonin stepped out of the trees into the clearing. That was quite the match. I didn't know you took up kenjutsu, Anko-chan. Said special Jonin shrugged. Meh, felt like learning something new. Plus I thought it would be nice to let the brat know who's boss between us. Little brother cannot beat big sister. Law of nature, she said, nodding her head sagely. And yet he kicked your ass last time, Anko-chan. Yugao teased. getting a glare from the kunoichi. Shut up. I'll get him next time. Cheeky, arrogant, cute-faced brat. Excuse me, Kurenai interjected, but who are you talking about again? Oh, Naruto Uzumaki, the genin under Kakashi-senpai. Yugao answered. Oh, I wanted to talk to you about him. It seems my student Hinata is very close to him. Anko grinned. Yeah, they both have it bad for each other. Still wondering who will ask whom out first. I'm going with the brat. Yeah, about that. Yugao, said person turned to her. Is Naruto her son? Yugao's eyes widened, then nodded. Yeah, but don't mention it to anyone. It's an S-rank secret. Anko was confused. We talking about the Gaki's family? Who's his mother? You're only a special Jonin Anko. We can't tell you, unless you ask Naruto-kun himself. It's his secret to tell. But we can clue you in. Let's just say he inherited his Fuinjutsu and Kenjutsu talents from her. But there aren't many seal masters other than Jiraiya-sama, the Yondaime and Kushina. Anko's eyes widened. No way, really. The Anbu and Jonin nodded. Don't tell anyone this. Consider this our little secret. Anko nodded and grinned. No wonder he was that good. It's like the parent's talent went to the son. Good thing it was nurtured early. I heard his academy days were terrible with all the sabotaging. Is that why he ended up as the dead last? He may have even taken up that role to deceive everyone. But why would he do that? Kurenai pondered. Say, since the three of us are here and I'm rested enough, how about a three-way? Seeing Yugao's and Kurenai's faces turn red, Anko facepalmed. Spar. Three-way spar. Seriously you two, if I didn't know you better, with all the anti-pervert image you've been putting up, I'd think you two are closet perverts. Both shook their heads and took up their stances, along with the special Jonin. The three then charged each other to begin their spar. The mysterious Nin had taken Zabuza to a small house far away and took him inside, placing him onto a bed. I will have to remove the bandages so he can freely cough up the blood, if he has any to cough, he mused, his hand reaching to pull down the bandages. A rough hand suddenly reached out and grabbed his wrist. I can do that myself, Haku. Zabuza opened his eyes, which were quite bloodshot. He sat up, painfully groaning. He reached behind him to take out the senbon in his neck, small squirts of blood coming out as he pulled them roughly. Please don't pull them out like that, Zabuza-sama, or you will really die, Haku commented in a light voice, which failed to convey his seriousness. Zabuza grunted as he lay on his back. You're as vicious as ever, Haku. Haku watched as his master lay on the bed. After a few minutes of silence, he spoke up. How will we face them next time, Zabuza-sama? Zabuza got a murderous look in his eyes. Next time, he growled out, more to himself than Haku, I'm taking away that Sharingan from that damned monkey. To be continued. I hope you enjoyed this story. Also remember to subscribe and like this video. See you in the next video.